Chapter 319. Muyu chose to stay here. It had everything he needed. The courtyard was divided into a front yard and a backyard. There were also enough rooms, just like a big family. The only regret was that there was an outsider here, and he was the kind who was stubborn. I don't want to stay with this bastard. I'm going to find an inn to stay in. Kumu glanced at Feng Haochen and Muyu and prepared to leave. Muyu was really annoyed by this stubborn old man. Every time Kumu and Feng Haochen said a word, it was like they were biting an explosive pill. The smell of gunpowder was so strong that he felt like he would suffocate if he didn't get angry. Hey, give me some face. They won't mind if you stay. Muyu pulled Kumu back. Kumu only had the cultivation of the Jindan period. In the 50-mile garden in the south, the Jindan period wasn't worth mentioning. With Kumu's stubborn and fiery personality, it wouldn't be surprising if he angered an out-of-body nascent soul stage cultivator. A mind, Kumu said impatiently. Muyu rolled her eyes and rolled her eyes. She seemed to have thought of something. She rushed over and opened the gate of the courtyard. Then, she said maliciously, "All right, then you go alone. I want to accompany you." The dead tree snorted heavily and lifted his foot to leave. "But I have to remind you that Miss Wan from the evil sect seems to like you a lot. Don't let me find you tomorrow when you're under her body doing shameful things. Forget it, as the saying goes. Even if you die under a peony, you'll still be a romantic ghost. Old man, if you can get Wan, you won't lose anything," Muyu said leisurely with his arms crossed. Kumu's foot had just stepped out, but before it landed, Muyu's words made him so angry that his whole body trembled. He turned around and walked to Muyu and kicked him. "Go and prepare an empty room for me." Sure enough, Wan had left too much of shadow in Deadwood's heart. Thinking back, he used to be the Poison King who was feared by everyone. Now that he had fallen from grace and was being teased by a little witch from an evil sect, he was infuriated. I know. Muyu snickered and hurriedly took Deadwood to the backyard to find a room to live in. Just like that, Muyu and Kumu settled down. Every day, Muyu would stay in the small courtyard and chat and laugh with his fellow disciples. It was as if he had returned to the Luochen mountain in the past. The only regret was that the two most troublemakers, Kong and Miao, were missing. As for these two troublemakers, Qing Mei will follow Feng Haochen back to Moyen Mountain Range and bring Kong Miao and Qing Mei's father out of Moyen Mountain Range. The Moyen Mountain Range would soon begin to reject nascent soul cultivators. It would not be safe for the Qingsong Taoists to stay there. On the fourth day, Luo Shang had already greeted Shimen Wuji, and Muyu once again came to the unguarded Luin Yuan. This time, he was familiar with the route and directly shouted for Shimen Wuji to come out. Wan twisted her slender waist and looked left and right. She was very unhappy when she didn't see the uncle she liked. To be honest, after coming to 38 Lee Street once, Muyu really didn't want to come to 38 Lee Street a second time, because when he was walking on the road just now, he saw the chrysanthemum-faced little red again. Now, his stomach was constantly churning. Shimen Wuji shook his head and looked at Muyu from head to toe. Then he asked playfully, "Do you really want to go to that place? In any case, I'm already here. What else can I do?" Muyu said, "How scary is that place? Why is everyone's reaction so strange? Do you know what that place is? It's not a simple matter to see the boss of my evil sect." Shimen Wuji raised his eyebrows. "I advise you to think twice. Will people die?" Muyu asked. "No, it's fine as long as people don't die. Let's go quickly," Muyu urged. Shimen Wuji led the way in the front. While leading the way, he said calmly, "I'm worried that as soon as you enter, you will impatiently want to run out. That place is the holy land of my evil sect. My master likes to use certain things to test outsiders. It's very easy to breed hard devil. Not to mention you. Even I can't hold on for too long. Our evil sect's test is something that you self-proclaimed righteous sects people can't withstand." Shimen Wuji led Muyu out of Luin Yuan and continued to walk along 38 Lee Street. All kinds of cultivators on the 38-mile street seemed to be harboring some evil intentions. Their expressions were sneaky, and from time to time, they would look around vigilantly. There are some people who saw Shimenwuji and ran away from afar. Is that place a mountain of blades and a sea of flames? What kind of test do I have to go through to go in? Muyu chuckled, but he was a little more serious. In the end, what kind of place was it that even Shimenwuji couldn't hold on for too long? Since the evil sect was called evil, if an evil thing entered one's body, it would definitely affect one's mind and breed heart devil. Muyu had never looked down on this guy, Shimenwuji. Although this guy was unreliable, but his cultivation was really formidable. If even Shimenwuji couldn't stay for too long in the place where Siebulo was, then didn't that mean that he also had no chance? In any case, you definitely won't like it. The place where my old man is at is a test of willpower. Only those with firm willpower can firmly hold on to their heart. Otherwise, they will be bewitched by our evil sect's holy objects. It's even more serious than climbing a mountain of blades and diving into a sea of flames. Shimenwuji coughed, then suddenly said seriously, other people called their things evil things, but he directly called them holy objects. Test of willpower? Muyu believed that his willpower was still firm. He had been to the second layer of heaven and fought with many demons. He had broken through the underground palace of demon race and fought with many demons. He had also woken up in the chaotic dreamland created by Phantom. Even when he was trapped in the second layer of heaven, he had thought of a way to escape. After experiencing so many hardships, he had survived. If this didn't count as firm willpower, then he didn't know what was. Muyu cleared his throat and said, "Don't worry, I will definitely be able to break through." That's not necessarily true. However, my brother-in-law, how is your little sister Tianran? Shimenwuji suddenly said with a beaming smile. When Muyu thought of Tianran, he felt a burst of frustration in his heart. But he suddenly woke up and wished he could give Shimenwuji a punch. If you call me brother-in-law again, I won't be polite. Tianran is the girl I like. If you dare to have any ideas about her, I will definitely fall out with you. Shimenwuji opened his fan with a walla sound and said with a smile, don't be like this. Before they got married, it was a fair competition, right? I was just casually asking, but let me tell you, when you enter our evil faction's holy land and are affected by our evil faction's holy object, you will most likely see the little saintess of Jade's sect in your mind. Muyu frowned. What he hated the most was having a mess of things in his mind. Last time, Tianran had an accident in the dreamland created by Phantom, and he didn't like that dreamland very much. If the evil faction's evil beings created the same dreamland for him, he would really go crazy. He somewhat regretted promising his master to come here. Perhaps his master and Luo Shang had also been affected by those evil beings. They were able to break through, but it seemed to be a very unpleasant experience, so they didn't want to come here a second time. Thinking about this, Muyu also didn't want to experience this kind of thing. But now that the arrow was already knocked on the bow, he couldn't back out at this time. Muyu turned into an alley with Shimenwuji. To Muyu's surprise, this alley was filled with people coming and going. There were even more people than the 38-mile street. Reflected in his eyes, everyone's face was wearing a gaudy mask. These masks perfectly fit each face, as if it was a real face, isolating them from outsiders probing. These masked people's clothes were very ordinary, coarse linen clothes. If not for the faint fluctuation of spiritual power in their body, Muyu would have thought that they were poor people. They came and went, didn't greet each other, and went their own way. Are these your evil factions people? Muyu stared at those masked people, wanting to see if there was anything unusual about them. Unfortunately, he couldn't tell what was unusual about them. But these people always gave Muyu a very strange feeling. After putting on the mask, you could be considered our evil factions people, Shimenwuji said. Soon after, Shimenwuji stopped in front of courtyard. Muyu raised his head to take a look, and his complexion slightly changed. What entered his eyes was a huge black skull, approximately 5 meters tall. Its 2 eye sockets were flickering with red light, and it was staring at the incoming people. It opened its bloody mouth, which was covered with a layer of spiritual energy barrier made of gray mist. Evil energy kept rising from its mouth, making it look particularly scary. At this moment, many masked people were going in and out of the skull's huge mouth. Those who entered directly melted into the gray-colored barrier and disappeared, so they didn't know the situation inside. Next to the skull, there was a stone tablet, and above it was written "Hell on Earth" in big blood-red characters. Next to it, there was also a trace of red blood stain, which was a ghastly sight, making people's mind couldn't help but ripple. Hell on Earth. Muyu frowned, and his expression was somewhat nervous. Could it be that there was endless slaughter inside? What were these masked people doing? Those who come to my evil faction's holy land have to wear a mask. I have prepared one for you. Shimonwuji handed over a mask to Muyu. Muyu took the mask, and just when the mask was close to his face, who would have thought that the mask seemed to come alive and suddenly attached itself to his entire face without leaving any gap? But he didn't feel any discomfort. Instead, it was incomparably smooth and didn't affect any of his senses. Shimonwuji didn't wear the mask and said, "Everyone here knows me, so I won't wear the mask. Let me tell you again, after stepping through this door, you have to be mentally prepared. Our evil faction's things are extraordinary, and the challenge to your mind and willpower is enormous. If you are careless and get injured, it might even cause you to lose too much blood. Of course, if there is danger, there is also opportunity. If you can endure it, it will also be beneficial to your cultivation." Hearing the word bleed, Muyu was startled. Just what was behind this door? Was it really so powerful? Muyu raised his vigilance, then nodded and said, "I am ready." Shimonwuji once again looked at Muyu, and a strange smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. Then he turned around and stepped into the skull. Muyu slowly approached that skull that was emitting evil aura, and looking at the black-colored barrier, he no longer hesitated and stepped into it. Chapter 320. Hell on Earth. Corpses everywhere. Rivers of blood. Murderous aura. Evil aura overflowed the heavens. If Muyu saw this, he wouldn't be surprised at all. He wouldn't even blink his eyes because he was prepared to explore hell. He even took out his shadow clone sword and prepared to kill in all directions. He wanted to annihilate the evil beings of the evil sects. However, the white scene in front of him almost blinded his eyes. How was this the scene of hell? This was simply playing a big joke on Muyu. Several pairs of tender little hands suddenly reached out in front of him and touched his body. Accompanied by Ling Ling's laughter, two gorgeously dressed girls eagerly pulled Muyu's hands. All kinds of flirtatious looks were thrown at him, causing Muyu to be stunned. "Young master, this servant is yours tonight. You have to be responsible for this servant." A girl with heavy makeup wrapped her hands around Muyu's neck and whispered into his ear. She was so sweet that it gave people goosebumps. "Young master, I like your figure and your sword is very beautiful." Another beautiful girl kept rubbing against Muyu's body and gently stroked the shadow clone sword from the sword tip to Muyu's hand. Muyu's hand trembled, and he quickly put away the shadow clone sword. "Shimonwuji, this is hell on earth?" Muyu's face immediately turned red. He saw that these two girls were wearing very casual clothes. It was as if their clothes were hanging on their bodies as they wished. The places that should be covered were not covered, and the spring scenery was wanly exposed. The last time he saw Wanwan's body, his head was already dizzy. Wanwan did not purposely let him see, but these two girls' little hands were really touching his body. That's right. This is the holy land of our evil sections. I already said that if a good righteous child like you who has never seen such a big scene came to our evil sect's holy land to find someone, you must have great willpower. Otherwise, you might get lost. Look, the little tent is already up. Your willpower is not strong enough. Shimonwuji was currently hugging 4 or 5 girls and was extremely impudent. You didn't tell me that your evil sect's holy land is a brothel." Muyu's face was completely red. He finally understood why his master and Luo Shang did not want to come here and sent Muyu here. Clearly, they already knew that this was not a simple place. It was fine if Luo Shang tricked him, but why did his master also trick him? What brothel? This is hell on earth. Didn't you good yous say that Messi is the devil? Devils come from hell. This is the hell on earth. Shimonwuji waved his hand and shooed away the 4 or 5 girls beside him. Moreover, our grade is much higher than a brothel. You will understand. Muyu saw a certain part of the girl in front of him, and he could not help blushing and his heart beating faster. He was also a young and vigorous man, but at this moment he could not control a certain part of his body and began to disobey. He finally understood what Shimonwuji meant by strong willpower, excessive blood loss, and great psychological challenge. If his mother's willpower was not strong enough, then his nose would definitely bleed into a mess, and excessive blood loss would be inevitable. And for a good youth like him who had pure 3 views, it was definitely a huge challenge in his heart. Want. How about you two put on your clothes properly? Muyu was extremely embarrassed. Without any psychological preparation, he was suddenly brought into a new world, and he was somewhat at a loss. Does young master not like us to wear clothes? These 2 girls began to unbutton their clothes with a charming smile, and from time to time rubbed against Muyu's body. Muyu felt that his brothers already couldn't wait to ascend to heaven, and his heartbeat also began to accelerate. No, you two make way, I'm looking for someone. Muyu discovered that he seemed to have become as stuttering as a dead tree, so he tried hard to move his eyes away. Shimonwuji was looking at Muyu with a grin in front of him. He swallowed a mouthful of saliva, and, in his mind, he kept warning himself not to do anything wrong to Tian Ran. Then he recalled, no wonder just a moment ago Shimonwuji said Tian Ran would appear in his mind. So it turned out this was the meaning. Looking for someone who doesn't come here to look for someone. The girl raised her hand and pointed, and Muyu unexpectedly saw a man and a woman on the branch of a banyan tree in front of him. The tree was violently shaking, and through the branches, he could see that the man was wearing a mask, his clothes were untidy, and his pants were missing from his lower body. This man's skin was fair, and he seemed to be a young man. And below the tree, there was a stone, and above the stone, 2 masked women were pressing down a white-haired masked man. Looking at the wrinkled skin on his body, one could tell that he should be an old man. He was clearly old and weak, and was very strenuous, and the 2 women on top of him were gasping for breath unceasingly. Muyu had a big headache. In the end, what the hell was this place? They were actually doing this kind of thing in broad daylight. Were they really so free? Everyone here was wearing a mask, so if they dared to do it, were they afraid of being recognized? He came with me, not looking for fun. Shimonwuji deliberately waited for Muyu's face to turn white and red, then walked over to those 2 women and said. Those 2 women pouted, then unwillingly let go of Muyu. I said you don't like to come to this place. To be honest, I don't like to come here. Every time I come here, I feel sorry for those beautiful goddesses of the cultivation world. I feel guilty towards them in my heart. Shimonwuji said in all seriousness. Muyu was very doubtful about this point. How could a shameless person like Shimonwuji not like this place? Then the sun would really rise from the west. Some of the women here were wearing masks, but there were also some who didn't, but every man he saw was definitely wearing a mask. No matter if it was a man or a woman. Their cultivation was very high, and the appearance of a woman without a mask could even be described as devastatingly beautiful. Shimonwuji knew what Muyu was thinking, so he mysteriously said, everyone in our evil sect's holy land is willing. Do you know there's a word called dual cultivation? Sometimes when your cultivation reaches a bottleneck, you come here to have fun. Maybe you can break through. So here, everyone is mutually beneficial. The masked men and women are all famous people in the cultivation world. They don't want others to know their identity. Muyu smacked his lips. He didn't believe Shimonwuji's nonsense. If you ask me, this is completely unnecessary. People have innate needs. This is human instinct. Why is there a need to suppress it? This place is just a place for everyone to indulge. After all, not everyone likes to do it on the bed. Maybe changing the environment will be more interesting. The wilderness is pretty good. Simon had the misfortune to comment on all kinds of people on the rockery, on the flowers, on the bushes, on the table, and on the swing. Muyu really wanted to beat this bastard up. He cursed in his heart. When he returned, he would look for Luo Shang and his master to settle the score. Why didn't he remind him at all? He thought that he would have to fight to the death. But he didn't expect that the people here were all barehanded. Compared to the hell on earth of the evil sect, he would rather fight with 5th or 6th ranked demon beasts for 300 rounds. While walking, Shimin Wuxing stared at those men and women messing around in the courtyard with great interest. He even pointed and said that this posture was not standard enough. If it was him, what would he do? And what would be the most perfect posture? Is Senior Siebu old man in this courtyard? Muyu resisted the urge to punch Shimin Wuji and asked in a deep voice. Shimin Wuji looked around, then picked up a big stone and threw it into the pond in the courtyard. Then a man and woman drilled out from the bottom of the pond and loudly cursed Shimin Wuji. Shimin Wuji didn't pay attention to them, turned his head and said to Muyu, "There is also no trace of him in the pond. Seems like he ran into the room today." Muyu was dumbstruck looking at the man and woman who cursed Shimin Wuji and then sank to the bottom of the pond. He felt that he had really entered a new world. Even underwater, this kind of place can do this kind of thing? Good heavens! What kind of thing is going on underwater? His 3 views were completely overturned by the people here. These people, according to Shimin Wuji's words, were from a famous and upright sect. How could a famous and upright cultivator do this kind of thing here? Isn't this too unimaginable? Shimin Wuji rolled his eyes at Muyu, this country bumpkin, then walked towards the back of the courtyard in large strides. At the back of the courtyard, there were rows of rooms, and from time to time, all kinds of voices could be heard, making Muyu incomparably embarrassed. Shimin Wuji kicked open a room and loudly shouted, "Room manager, check the rooms! Check the rooms! Is Siebu old man in?" The man and woman who were rolling in the quilt immediately shouted. The man was wearing a mask, and he was unable to restrain his anger as he roared, "Shimin Wuji, get the F***K out of here. Do you believe that I won't cripple you?" Shimin Wuji snorted, and with a pa sound, he closed the door, then kicked open the next door, and was cursed out again. Which room is Siebu old man in? Really, looking room by room is really tiring. Shimin Wuji completely ignored those cursing people and only minded his own business looking for Siebu old man. Aren't you worried that they will fight you to the death? Muyu swallowed a mouthful of saliva and slightly distanced himself from Shimin Wuji. If something happened, he didn't want to stand on Shimin Wuji's side. Just now, there were at least 2 people in the room who were in the spirit-severing realm, and Shimin Wuji didn't have the slightest fear. His guts were really big. What are you afraid of? If they have the ability, then they can make a move. In this place, as soon as they make a move, we will know their background. The masks can hide their true appearance, but the techniques they use can't be hidden. Those who wear masks are people who have misgivings about their identity, and those who do this kind of thing in a room are even more serious about their identity. They don't dare to casually expose themselves. Shimin Wuji said without any fear. Muyu truly admired Shimin Wuji's courage. If it was him, he would definitely not provoke them, but if he didn't provoke them, then it would be impossible to find them in this place. Shimin Wuji was also very calm. So many people knew him, and he didn't care at all. The people of the evil sects were really not afraid of anyone. If they don't like it, then they don't have to come. Do you think that I am willing to charge them 100,000 spirit stones every time? Shimin Wuji muttered. Muyu was dumbfounded. 100,000 spirit stones every time? The holy land of the evil sects was actually such a luxurious place? 100,000 spirit stones? Why don't you just rob them? Muyu thought about the pitiful amount of spirit stones in his pocket. It seemed like he couldn't even gather enough spirit stones to enter this place. A pauper couldn't come here. Strictly speaking, he wasn't a pauper. He had too many high-level pills in his pocket. Spirit stones are just worldly possessions. You will understand in the future that the higher your cultivation, the more you need to indulge yourself. You don't have to say, someone here might be the righteous elder you usually see. 100,000 spirit stones every time is not a loss. Every man and woman here has a very high cultivation. Doing it once will be very beneficial to their cultivation. Shimin Wuji curled his lips. Nonsense, my master wouldn't do it. Muyu wouldn't believe, even if he was beaten to death, that his respected elder would come to this place. At least, if Dead Tree's cultivation was still there, he wouldn't come here. Even his green hair couldn't cover it. As for Feng Haochen, he wouldn't come all the way here. The two of them were devoted people, so they wouldn't do this kind of thing. Shimin Wuji mysteriously came over. Although your two masters aren't our guests here, that doesn't mean that the other sects aren't. Let me tell you, last time I saw an elder from the Eight Gates, he was also here. It's a pity that he really isn't good in that aspect. So a certain elder sister from the Jade Gate was very dissatisfied. Of course, I can't tell you their identity. Although we don't have any scruples, the privacy of our customers is very important. This is the bottom line of doing business. Muyu didn't know if he should believe Shimin Wuji's words. How noble was the status of the Eight Gates elders? Would that kind of person really come here? As for the Jade Gate, that was the Jade Gate, the holy land of the goddess. If Shimin Wuji went out and said this, he would definitely be hunted down. Only people from the evil sects would be able to ruin someone's reputation like this. You don't understand. In the cultivation world, there are many cultivators who say one thing in front of others and another behind others. Many sanctimonious elders actually have needs in secret. In fact, there's nothing wrong with doing this kind of thing. It's just that those people from the righteous sects can't put down their face and insist on wearing a mask. If you ask me, their lives are really tiring. How many spirit stones is their face worth? Look at me, I'm very shameless. Oh, that's not right. I'm living a free and easy life. Shimin Wuji continued to kick the door. Not all of the doors could be kicked open. Some of the doors had restrictions placed on them, so he couldn't kick them open. Shimin Wuji didn't care about those doors that he couldn't kick open and continued to kick others. This was because he said that evil sects never lock their doors when doing this kind of thing. If they locked their doors, then they definitely weren't from the evil sections. Muyu was speechless. Not everyone would get angry from having their doors kicked open. Some people didn't even take Shimin Wuji seriously, as if this kind of thing was commonplace. When doing things, one must have a lot of concentration to be able to not be distracted. Sure enough, each and every one of them was a person with a firm will. Muyu couldn't help but admire them. When Shimin Wuji kicked the 18th door, he finally walked in. Muyu was 10 steps behind him. After hesitating for a bit, he also walked in. Seeing the situation on the bed, Muyu's face turned red. He quickly turned his face away. On the bed, there was a white-haired old man doing strange things with a woman. The quilt was kicked to the door. That old man's body was emitting an aura of death. It felt like he had one foot in the coffin, but he could still do this kind of thing. He was really not ordinary. In fact, he really wasn't ordinary. Because from Shimin Wuji's gloating expression, this old man was Xiebu Lao. Chapter 321. Old man, you still haven't finished. Shimin Wuji sat down, poured 2 cups of tea, and pushed 1 cup to Muyu. Muyu hesitated for a moment. He didn't know whether he should go out and wait or not. Others were doing something while he was drinking tea. No matter how he looked at this situation, it was very awkward. Not handsome. Go to the medicine hall of Danding's sect, and buy 2 vigorous soul returning Dan. The old man's unclear voice came, and the bed shook, causing the floor to creak. Call me handsome Shimin, and I will give you vigorous soul returning Dan. Shimin Wuji had already bought this kind of powerful medicine and was fiddling with it in his hand. Good disciple, quickly give it to your master. The old man said incoherently. Shimin Wuji muttered something in dissatisfaction. Then, through the vigorous soul, returning Dan over. Muyu naturally knew about this vigorous soul returning Dan. This kind of thing was used to supplement the body of a certain kind of incompetent man, and after taking it, he would become as fierce as a tiger. Danding's sect refined all kinds of Dan, and then took it to various medicine halls of the 3 continents to sell. Including this, Muyu also knew a little bit about it. Danding's sect's medicine hall definitely existed in 50 Li Garden. I will go outside and wait first. Muyu put down the teacup. Although his skin was usually very thick, but in this kind of situation, he was still far from Shimin Wuji's calm state of mind. Shimin Wuji was not an ordinary person. He was the golden boy of the evil sects, and his bad reputation in the world of cultivation was extremely high. Mu Yu was a serious youth, and this kind of matter was not something he could do without his face turning red and his heart skipping a beat. What are you doing? Sooner or later, you will get used to this kind of thing, Shimin Wuji said from behind. Getting some experience now will also help you grow in the future, right? Mu Yu pretended not to hear, quickly walked to the courtyard, and sat down in the pavilion of the courtyard. As a result, when he raised his head, he saw that there were actually two people lying in the air above the pavilion, doing something. Public morals are degenerating day by day. Mu Yu sighed and sat down on a rock garden. After confirming that there was no one around the rock garden, he lay down. His eyes, however, never left Xiebu Lao's room. It seemed like the great strength soul returning pill bought by Shimin Wuji was the real deal. At least Mu Yu was bored to death waiting outside for nearly 4 hours, but Xiebu was still not done. As for Shimin Wuji, he was leisurely pointing here and there in the room. No one knew what he was doing. It seemed he was exchanging experiences with evil vigor. Mu Yu intentionally didn't want to listen, but Shimin Wuji's voice always floated into his ears from time to time. This posture is not good. It's not challenging at all. Don't hurt your waist. This movement is too difficult. I can still accept it, but an old man like you shouldn't try it. You didn't do it properly. Do you want me to demonstrate it to you? Shimin Wuji and Xiebu unexpectedly interacted with each other. Shimin Wuji truly didn't know how abnormal this fellow was. He could also blindly meddle in this kind of matter. The people of evil faction truly knew how to stir up trouble. Pure little brother, you can come in now. Just when Mu Yu was indulging in flights of fancy, Shimin Wuji's voice resounded. It seemed like Xiebu was done with his business. He could finally see Mu Yu. Why do I have to see him? Xiebu's voice was somewhat tired. Shimin Wuji should be telling him that someone had come to see him. You will be interested. Shimin Wuji greeted Mu Yu. Mu Yu calmed himself down. Xiebu was an extremely powerful person. Since he was able to negotiate with the demon race, it was enough to show that his means were exceedingly high. He was on the same level as Jianing and Chinfeng. Merely, Mu Yu didn't dare to flatter him. This old fellow was too indecent. Junior Mu Yu greets Senior Xiebu. Mu Yu lowered his head and respectfully greeted. Then he slowly raised his head and looked at the old man who was sitting on the bed. Xiebu was wearing a navy blue robe. His robe was very luxurious, and there was a strange pattern embroidered on his chest. At first glance, he looked like an old man who was sticking out his tongue and making a funny face. But after looking carefully, he looked like a middle-aged man. As for the appearance of Xiebu, how was this an old man? This was clearly a middle-aged man. Mu Yu was bewildered as he looked at Shimin Wuji, who was sitting at the side drinking tea. Shimin Wuji didn't say anything. It seemed as if the matter of Mu Yu had nothing to do with him. He had seen this middle-aged man before. A few days ago, when he entered Luin Garden, he was the first person he saw. At that time, he was lying on a rock and sleeping. He was woken up by Mu Yu. At that time, Mu Yu felt that the pattern on his chest was quite amusing. If this person was Xiebu, then who was that old man who was flirting with clouds and rain just now? You are Senior Xiebu? Mu Yu asked hesitantly. What? Could it be that there is someone who dares to use this name? The middle-aged man seemed to be looking for something on the ground. Mu Yu knew what he was looking for. He was looking for his shoes. But there wasn't any shoes on the ground. Then who was that senior just now? Mu Yu felt somewhat headache. Just a moment ago, he clearly saw a white-haired old man who was about to step into the coffin, sitting on the bed where Xiebu was sitting. How come there was suddenly a different person? How could he play like this? Senior? Was I very old just now? Xiebu stared at Mu Yu. I recognize you. That day, you went to Luin Garden. For Senior to remember this junior is in fear and trepidation. This junior asked my master to order me to return something to Senior. Mu Yu glanced at the bed from the corner of his eyes. At this moment, that woman who was flirting with this old man was wearing her clothes. Her figure was very good, but unfortunately, her face was covered by a mask. Presumably, she was also a lonely woman. She didn't say anything and just wore her clothes, then leisurely left. Old man, I think you should not do this kind of thing in the future. Once you do it, your body will become old. Fortunately, this female elder of inexhaustible cloud sect is tenacious. Otherwise, who would be willing to do this kind of thing with you? Shimin Wuji said with a grin. Shut up. Even if I become old, I am willing. If I didn't like to do this kind of thing, you would probably still be in the brothel being defiled. Besides, how could that little girl not be willing to do this kind of thing with me? Siet Bielo snorted. Shimin Wuji's fabricated background was actually true. Was he really brought back from the brothel by Siet Bielo? Muyu was stunned. Was that old man also Siet Bielo? In other words, once he did that kind of thing, he would become incomparably old, and after doing that kind of thing, he would change back into a middle-aged man. What kind of martial technique did Siet Bielo practice to actually become like this? Oh, that's right. This pure little brother is the disciple of Jian Ing Chenfeng. He came here to look for you. Before Shimin Wuji could finish speaking, Muyu suddenly felt as if he had fallen into an ice house. Sharp killing intent wrapped around him, and even his breath could be clearly seen. His blood flow also began to become sluggish, and he even felt as if he would be crushed into pieces if he moved even a little bit. Give me a reason not to kill you. Siet Bielo's voice sounded gentle and mellow, but Muyu could see that it contained great killing intent. Siet Bielo had once lost to Jian Ing Chenfeng, so he hated the words Jian Ing Chenfeng. Master asked me to give you something, and then ask you to do me a favor. Muyu operated Dust Sutra, and all the blood in his body became active again. After a good while, he took out the brocade box given to him by his master, then handed it over. Last time, I already helped him and returned the favor. I don't owe him anything anymore. As I said, everything related to Jian Ing Chenfeng must die. Siet Bielo didn't take the thing from Muyu, merely looked at Muyu and said, The problem is, how should I kill you? All right, I will chop off one of your fingers first. But he didn't make a move on Muyu. Instead looked at Shimin Wuji and asked, You didn't chop off his finger? Why should I chop off his finger? I am a genuine disciple of evil sect, and I will never do anything against my heart. Shimin Wuji said without raising his head. I knew you bastards wouldn't help me with this matter. Siet Bielo snorted. Then tell me, which finger of it should I chop off? Siet Bielo stared at both of Muyu's hands. Muyu didn't understand why evil sect's people were so against his fingers. Why did everyone want to chop off his fingers? Muyu looked at both of Siet Bielo's hands. His master couldn't have chopped off his fingers, right? But all of his fingers were fine. How could they be chopped off? Senior, can't you take a look at the thing my master gave you? Muyu said. He didn't open that thing to take a look. Feng Haochen told him not to open it. Although he was curious, he wouldn't disobey Feng Haochen's order. I don't need the thing he gave me. Siet Bielo flicked his finger, and a sharp chi shot out and hit Muyu's hand. Muyu was startled in his heart. He was not only worried that this thing would be damaged, he was also worried whether he would be able to withstand the attack of Siet Bielo. Siet Bielo's cultivation was like a mountain in front of Muyu. However, he was able to persuade the demon race to not cause trouble for the human race. This was enough to prove that he was not ordinary. If this chi hit Muyu, the damage caused would be enough to kill Muyu. Siet Bielo's chi carried a heaven-destroying and earth-exterminating aura as it hit the brocade box. However, who would have thought that the brocade box would only flash with a golden light, and in an instant, Siet Bielo's chi disappeared without a trace. Siet Bielo abruptly stood up. He stared at that rag in disbelief. His mouth was slightly open, and his eyes never left that rag. That bastard actually returned that thing to me. Siet Bielo suspiciously looked at Muyu. Muyu's body became light. Siet Bielo's oppressive aura disappeared without a trace. Even now, Muyu didn't know what that brocade box was, and what kind of treasure was inside it. However, he knew that this thing seemed to have moved Siet Bielo's heart, and there was a leeway to turn this matter around. Feng Haochen wouldn't let his disciple do something he wasn't sure of, and he had already considered this point. Shimin Wuji was also somewhat puzzled as he looked at the brocade box floating in midair. Even though he was experienced and knowledgeable, he still didn't recognize this thing. What does he want me to do? Siebulo and Feng Haochen definitely had an endless grudge in the past. They were old rivals, so they definitely understood each other very well. Whatever the other wanted to do, they only needed one thing to figure it out. Set up several formation. What formation? Siebulo asked. 9 heavens sealing devil formation. Chapter 322. Siebulo sat on the bed like an ordinary person. He didn't release any spiritual energy from his body. Instead, he looked at Muyu thoughtfully. 4. Muyu had nothing to hide. Since he needed Siebulo's help, he would find out sooner or later. What kind of ability do you have? Siebulo asked calmly. Muyu kicked the chair beside him. Suddenly, many green branches sprouted from the chair. The branches took root and sprouted, blooming with vitality. They swayed slightly in the air. Siebulo touched the brocade box, but his eyes were fixed on the branches on the chair. He raised his eyebrows and said, Mu Yuming's ability. It seems like you really want to do this. The 9 heavens demon sealing formation needs 3 people. Who else did he find? Deadwood Evergreen. Muyu said in a deep voice. Deadwood Evergreen? That Deadwood Evergreen who fought with Jian Ying and Chun Feng for a woman? Interesting. He actually want to find that guy. Didn't they fight? Deadwood hasn't been beaten to death. Siebulo said in a gloating tone. Siebulo knew a lot of things. He even knew about this. Most people in the 3 continents probably didn't know that Jian Ying and Chun Feng had a woman they liked. They also didn't know that Deadwood Evergreen would fight with a true god for a woman. In fact, if the cultivation world knew about this, it was needless to say that everyone would stand on the side of the true god and punish Deadwood Evergreen for overestimating himself. Outsiders only knew that Deadwood was a person who was good at using poison. Only those who knew how much sacrifice Deadwood had made for the woman he liked. Muyu wouldn't judge who Miao Yuyin should be with, but he would definitely protect that old man who wasn't good with words in front of everyone. Will senior help? Muyu didn't like Siebulo's tone. Siebulo's eyes flickered as if he was thinking about something. After a while, he said, when he wanted to play with you guys, I didn't agree. Even now, I don't agree because I don't trust people like you who have Yumon's ability. Siebulo's eyes flashed, and a huge pressure suddenly wrapped around Muyu's body. Muyu frowned. He supported himself on the chair, and vines grew out from the chair to wrap around his body. However, Siebulo's terrifying aura destroyed all the vines in an instant, turning them into powder. Muyu groaned as the Mu Ling sword appeared and transformed into the shadow of a Bodhi tree. It enveloped Muyu and isolated Xie Yolao's aura. The Wood Yumon's sacred items are in your hands? Siebulo was surprised. Senior wants to kill me? Muyu asked in a deep voice. Xie Yolao's imposing manner receded like a receding tide. He playfully asked, do you know what's inside? With a light tap of his fingertip, all the formation patterns on the brocade box appeared. Under Siebulo's guidance, all the formation patterns changed into specks of light which floated in the air. Then, a faintly discernible evil chi suddenly spread out from the brocade box. This evil chi came so suddenly. The instant the formation patterns dissipated, it immediately rushed out. The soul-shaking evil chi strangely fluctuated, and gray-colored spirit chi revolved around the brocade box. Shiman Wuji shrunk his neck and suddenly revealed a surprised expression. He said, don't tell me this is the pattern. Siebulo unfastened the buckle and opened a slit of the brocade box. Dense, evil chi suddenly sprayed out from the brocade box, as if the howl of evil spirit from hell was heard. Myriad of evil beings drilled out from the brocade box. These evil beings were of different shapes and sizes. They were neither human nor beast. They were purely evil. They instantly covered the entire room, and everything in the room was shrouded in a layer of evil chi. Everything in the room that was contaminated by evil chi suddenly emitted a strange dark red radiance. Chairs, tables, vases, everything seemed to have been bestowed with life. All of a sudden, everything came alive. Two evil eyes actually appeared on some part of their body. It was impossible to tell whether those eyes belonged to a human or a demon beast. There was only the purest evil in those eyes. It was as if they were able to taint the purity of the world, making the entire world no longer have any beautiful things. Mu Ling's sword lightly trembled, and the radiance flourished again. Myriad of life force violently rushed out and separated all the evil qi. Mu Yu looked at that evil qi in fear. If not for the protection of Mu Ling, perhaps he wouldn't have been able to resist this evil qi. Everything in the room was demonized, and only Shimen Wuji and Xie Bulo were safe and sound. This is 6 evils? Shimen Wuji looked at that brocade box in disbelief. Sword Shadow, Chun Feng returned 6 evils to you? Xie Bulo's eyes were filled with blazing radiance. Looking at the thing inside the brocade box, his body was unexpectedly slightly trembling. It seemed he was endlessly excited because of the return of this thing. Shortly afterwards, he lightly snorted, and all the evil qi suddenly disappeared without a trace. The things that were demonized in the room also returned to their original state, as if nothing had happened. Xie Bulo once again closed the brocade box, and at the same time, he used his spiritual power to cover the evil qi inside the brocade box. What the hell is this thing? Mu Yu was completely puzzled. The thing inside the brocade box didn't seem to be anything good. It actually had such a strange ability. When his master gave him this brocade box, he didn't tell him what was inside. But from a reaction of Xie Bulo and Shimen Wuji, he could guess that the evil thing inside was very important to Xie Bulo. Xie Bulo strangely looked at Mu Yu and said, "Brat, put away your Mu Ling. Go back and tell Sword Shadow Chun Feng that I can help you with this matter. Since he returned 6 evils to me, then I don't have any grudges with him. In the future, whether I kill him or not will depend on my mood." Although Xie Bulo agreed to help them lay down 9 heavens sealing devil formation, Mu Yu was still puzzled in his heart. He had never heard of 6 evils, so he didn't know much about the strength of evil sections. But this 6 evils was undoubtedly the most valuable treasure of evil sections. He wanted to ask clearly what 6 evils were, but Xie Bulo already impatiently waved his hand, telling him to leave quickly. "Do you need me to lead the way? You should remember the way back, right? Don't disturb other people's mood on the way back." Shimen Wuji snickered. When Mu Yu thought about how he would pass by those people on the way back, he couldn't help but curse in his heart. Although this kind of scene was a feast for the eyes of many youths, it was a pity that Mu Yu didn't want to spend these thoughts on other women. In his heart, he felt guilty towards Tian Ran. He ran out with a red face, trying his best not to look at the flowers. Then, he left the hell on earth. Looking in the direction where there were fewer people, he turned into a small alley, pulled off the mask, and threw it away. Hell on Earth was located at 38 Mile Street in the 50 Mile Garden. Most of the people who came here were from the evil sect. Of course, there were also a lot of people with unknown origins. Most of them were doing all kinds of shady business here. There was a transportation array at the entrance of Hell on Earth. It wasn't connected to the other transportation arrays of the 50 Mile Garden. It was only used to transport those high and mighty cultivators here. It wasn't that cultivators didn't have the 7 emotions and 6 desires. They cultivated all kinds of Tao techniques, and after a long time, they would feel empty and lonely. Some cultivators couldn't make any progress in their cultivation for a long time, so they came to Hell on Earth to indulge themselves. As long as they found a suitable partner, the pleasure between the two was enough to make them break through the barrier of cultivation. This was also the reason why so many big shots knew that this wasn't a proper place, but still quietly came here. Evil sects did this very well. They were only responsible for providing the place, but didn't ask about the identity. Therefore, they weren't afraid that someone would reveal their identity here and cause unnecessary scandals. Mu Yu didn't know where the transportation array was, so he planned to take a detour to find a shop, all ways to leave 38 Mile Street. Just as he turned the corner, he saw a tall and sturdy middle-aged man walking towards him, and he just happened to take off his mask. Mu Yu was stunned for a moment. Damn, it was actually White Ape Demon King. White Ape Demon King also saw Muyu. He waved the mask in his hand and looked at Muyu maliciously. "It's you, kid. F***CK. Your sister, old hairy monkey. Why did a demon like you run to hell on earth?" When Muyu saw the mask in his hand, he already knew where this guy came from. This Demon King deliberately revealed his identity last time and almost killed him. If it weren't for the fact that he couldn't beat this guy, he would have wanted to find this bastard and ask for an explanation. White Ape Demon King's strength was very strong, but the 50-mile garden in the south didn't allow cultivators to casually fight on the streets. Therefore, Muyu didn't hold back when he saw White Ape Demon King. He didn't believe that White Ape Demon King would dare to blatantly fight him this time. White Ape Demon King said unhappily, "Kid, show some respect. This old man is also a Demon King. It's more than enough to kill you 1,000 times. Although you humans are forbidden to fight in this place. If I take you away, who do you think can stop me?" Muyu thought about it, and it seemed to be true. This Demon King even broke out of the Danding sect, so the 50-mile garden in the south shouldn't be able to stop him. However, now that the threefold palace was protecting these extreme immortals, he had nothing to fear. White Ape Demon King's face showed a trace of intoxication and continued, "Hell on earth is really a good place. I haven't felt so good in 1,000 years. It's really good to come here and indulge and let those famous righteous fairies and saintesses serve me." Muyu's face was full of black lines. He wondered which unlucky woman was having fun with the Demon King. If that female cultivator knew that he was having sex with an ape, he wondered if she would be so ashamed that she would commit suicide. "By the way, what are you doing here?" White Ape Demon King looked up and down at Muyu and suddenly showed a trace of anger. "Kid, did you also go to hell on earth? F***CK. Last time my Qiao Shui went back, she was in a daze. You little bastard dare to cheat on her? Cheat on your sister. Do you think everyone is as shameless as you? I just came here to settle accounts with Shiman Wuji," Muyu said with some lack of confidence. Although he didn't come to hell on earth for the matters between men and women, but he still saw some things that were not suitable for children, which polluted his very pure heart. Originally, he thought that he should be a calm person, but unfortunately, he was in his prime and almost couldn't control himself. Just now, the messy, evil fire on his body spread all over his body. White Ape Demon King looked at Muyu suspiciously and snorted. "Kid, I don't care what you came here for, but if you dare to betray my Qiao Shui, I will definitely peel off your skin. I'm not afraid of those people from the three-layered palace. If you don't believe me, you can try. Quickly find a time to hold the wedding. Oh, right, you have to be a son-in-law. My Qiao Shui won't get married." Chapter 323. Without another word, Muyu turned around and walked away. If he continued talking with this guy, he reckoned that he would really be forcibly taken back to be his son-in-law. With the fearless personality of the White Ape Demon King, it was very likely that he would do such a thing. Now that the human race had tacitly acknowledged the existence of the White Ape Demon King, those hidden seniors of the human race wouldn't make a move against the White Ape Demon King. Basically, no one in the cultivation world would dare to provoke him. "Hey, don't go. I'm not done yet. Damn it. I don't even like a little bastard like you. I really don't know how my daughter fell in love with you. Do you think I want to be your father-in-law in name only? Do you know how shameful it is to have a human as a son-in-law? But I'm a more open-minded person. I won't interfere with who my goddaughter likes. However, she has to go through my layers of checks. Our demon race also had a lot of young demon kings pursuing Qiao Shui. I like them more." The White Ape Demon King rambled on behind Muyu. Muyu cursed the ancestors of the White Ape Demon King in his heart. Couldn't this guy be a proper demon king and take out his dignity to interfere with Qiao Shui's marriage? Since this old hairy monkey liked the demon race so much, what was the use of telling him? "There's really nothing between me and Qiao Shui. I've already told her clearly that we are innocent. Don't worry about me snatching away your Qiao Shui." Muyu helplessly spread out his hands. However, the White Ape Demon King suddenly grabbed Muyu's collar and angrily said, "Little bastard, do you think that my Qiao Shui isn't worthy of you? Didn't you dislike me? Muyu was a little confused. She thought to herself, I must have had 8 lifetimes of bad luck to have met such a rude and unreasonable old monster like the White Ape Demon King. Is his brain damaged? He was obviously dissatisfied with him. He had already followed his wishes and laid his cards on the table with Xiao Shui, but now he was looking for trouble. Of course I don't like you, brat, but Xiao Shui can't forget you. You have to take responsibility for Xiao Shui. The White Ape Demon King's face was filled with anger. Take responsibility? Then I'll find a time to do as you say and marry her. Muyu said perfunctorily. Brat, are you a toad that wants to eat swan meat? There are hundreds of thousands of young men who want to marry Xiao Shui. You're nothing. F***CK. Didn't you just ask me to marry her? If I don't marry her, then tell me, how am I going to be responsible for her? Should I be responsible with my mouth and keep my physical body at a distance? In any case, you're not allowed to fall in love with any girl until Xiao Shui falls in love with someone else. Demon King, Annie Wong's bun shop at 6 Mile Street is very delicious. What does it have to do with me that her buns are delicious? Then who Xiao Shui and I like is none of your business. Damn it, you're asking for a beating. Muyu was about to explode from anger when the White Ape Demon King grabbed his collar. However, he suddenly recalled Xiao Shui's ability to control water and came to a realization. Like him, Xiao Shui should have used the Ninth Heaven's sealing devil formation to seal away spirit, Lord Yumeng. All right, then I need to see Xiao Shui, Muyu said solemnly. The White Ape Demon King shook his head and said, No, my daughter is not someone you can see whenever you want. Wouldn't that be too degrading? Muyu almost jumped up and said angrily, Then what the F***CK do you want? On one hand, you're urging me to take responsibility, and on the other hand, you're not letting me see her. Are you crazy? The White Ape Demon King let go of Muyu and said, I need to determine if you're sincere to Xiao Shui. If Xiao Shui is willing to marry you, then I can't stop her. But first, you have to swear a few hundred oaths to never betray her. Then, you have to help me do some things. Also, you have to count on me a few times and call me father-in-law. The kowtow has to be loud. If it's too soft, it won't count. Muyu had seen shameless people like Shiman Wuji, but he had never seen someone as shameless as the White Ape Demon King. He said angrily, Old hairy monkey, you better find someone else as your son-in-law. If you want to find this kind of son-in-law, I suggest you look for Thunder God. He will definitely kowtow to you until the sky shakes. I want to see Xiao Shui to talk to her about a matter. This matter is related to the spirit Lord Shui Yumeng's power in her body. The White Ape Demon King suddenly became alert. When Muyu said, Spirit Lord Shui Yumeng, a demonic radiance appeared in his eyes and the sloppy expression on his face disappeared. What matter is related to the spirit Lord Shui Yumeng's power? The White Ape Demon King asked in deep voice. Muyu straightened his collar and looked all around. From time to time, people wearing masks would pass through the small alley, hurriedly coming and going from hell on earth. This is not the place to talk, Muyu said very seriously. The White Ape Demon King suspiciously sized up Muyu. When he saw that Muyu didn't seem to be joking, he heavily snorted and said, You come with me. If I find out that you are lying, I will kill you and sell you to the bun shop. Muyu had already cursed the 38th generation ancestor of the White Ape Demon King in his heart. He was always the one who had bad luck. Meeting Siebulo was already enough to make him suffer. Now, he had to meet White Ape Demon King who had lived for several thousand years. If not for Xiao Shui, he wouldn't have gotten involved in this muddy water with the White Ape Demon King, even if he was beaten to death. The White Ape Demon King swaggered along with Muyu and left the 38th Mile Street and arrived at the 25th Mile Street. The 25th Mile Street was the place where the White Ape Demon King stayed. Muyu didn't feel like asking him why he came to the territory of the human race. However, this time, he came alone. There were no other members of the demon race. After the demon race transformed into their human form, they would more or less retain the characteristics of their demon race body. Therefore, they would be easily recognized in the territory of the human race. However, The white ape demon king didn't look any different from a normal person except for his exuberant white hair. Speak. The white ape demon king closed the door and stared at Muyu. It seemed that if Muyu dared to say a single wrong word, he would immediately contact the owner of the bun shop. Muyu unceremoniously sat down and said, "You should know that if Xiao Shui isn't careful, she will fall into an unconscious slaughter. If she doesn't wake up in time, the spirit Lord Yu Meng's power in her body will destroy her. Only I can solve this problem." The white ape demon king's face finally showed a rare trace of seriousness. He asked in surprise, "How do you know?" When she was in the second layer of heaven, she almost lost control in order to save you. If I didn't wake her up in time, she would still be fighting with the demon beasts in the second layer of heaven. Muyu said unhappily. The white ape demon king asked, "Then what's the solution you mentioned?" "My master wants to arrange a ninth heaven-sealing demon formation to seal the spirit Lord Yu Meng's power in our bodies, so that we won't lose control. However, we will still have spirit Lord Yu Meng's power." Muyu didn't hide it. Although the white ape demon king always looked like he deserved a beating, he was very concerned about Xiao Shui. It wasn't a big deal to let him know about this. "Us? You too?" The white ape demon king asked in surprise. Muyu tapped the table with his finger, and many green sprouts sprouted from the table again. He felt very helpless. This was the second time today that he made the table sprout. "Spirit Lord Yu Meng's power is in your body?" The white ape demon king seemed to have thought of something and said, "So that's why you helped us escape in the second layer of heaven." "I did help Xiao Shui. You were just basking in Xiao Shui's glory. I didn't intend to save you." Muyu curled his lips. The white ape demon king resisted the urge to beat up Muyu and said, "How confident are you?" "I don't know how confident I am. In any case, I believe that my master won't harm me. Naturally, he won't harm Xiao Shui. Where's Xiao Shui now? Let me talk to her." Muyu said, "Who is your master? How can he have such great power?" The white ape demon king asked. Muyu rolled his eyes. Now, everyone in the cultivation world knew that his master was the famous Jian Ing Chun Feng of the third layer of heaven. Only this guy didn't know. It was really strange. "My master is Jian Ing Chun Feng." Speaking of which, even if you don't know Jian Ing Chun Feng, you should have heard of the true God who defeated the five-spirit Lord Yu Meng more than 100 years ago, right? Muyu knew that the white ape demon king was a demon king from several thousand years ago. 100 years ago, the white ape demon king was still trapped in the second layer of heaven. Now that he had returned to the third layer of heaven, he should at least have a rough understanding of the human race's situation. "Your master is Jianing Chinfeng? What? That guy is still alive?" The white ape demon king asked angrily. Muyu felt that this was very strange. He thought that this guy had lost his mind again. He said, "Of course my master is still alive. Speaking of which, why are you making such a fuss? My master is not of the same generation as you." The white ape demon king's eyes flickered. After a while, he sneered and said, "It seems that your master didn't tell you something." "What? Is he planning to keep it a secret?" "Keep it a secret? Keep what secret? You know my master?" Muyu felt that the white ape demon king's words were a bit strange. The white ape demon king was immortal. How could he know his master? The white ape demon king said playfully, "Not only do I know Jianing Chun Feng, but I also know Xie Bulo. Let me think. The 9 heavens sealing demon formation must have been set up by the two of them together." Muyu remembered that Xie Bulo had gone to the Azure Dragon Demon King to negotiate. He guessed that the white ape demon king was also there at that time. It made sense that the white ape demon king knew Jian Ing Chun Feng and Xie Bulo. "It seems that there are some things that you don't know. It seems that I can't wait to see Jian Ing Chun Feng. Go back and tell your master that I will go. Not only will I go, but I will also settle the debt from 4,000 years ago." The white ape demon king's face revealed a trace of ominous glint. 4,000 years of debt. What does that have to do with my master? My master wasn't even born at that time, right? Muyu asked, puzzled. "Don't worry about it. I will bring Xiao Shui over in 2 days. You can go now." The white ape demon king said impatiently. Muyu stood up and told the White Ape Demon King his address. He then left the White Ape Demon King's residence with a head full of questions. He felt that something was wrong. His master was a modern person, but the White Ape Demon King was a person from several thousand years ago. How could they be related? Did his master have other secrets that he didn't tell him? Although the lifespan of a cultivator was longer than that of an ordinary person, Muyu remembered that there was no one like the Demon King who could live for several thousand years without dying. An ordinary cultivator's lifespan was at most 200 years, which was twice as long as that of an ordinary person. In short, Muyu's mind was in a mess along the way. After this trip, he felt that there were many things that he couldn't understand. First of all, when he went to find Siebulo, what were the 6 evils that Siebulo had mentioned? Why would such a demonic thing cause Siebulo's attitude to change so drastically? Next, there was the White Ape Demon King. Why would the White Ape Demon King want to settle the debt from 4,000 years ago with Jian Ing Chenfeng? What did the White Ape Demon King's matter from 4,000 years ago have to do with Jian Ing Chenfeng? Jian Ing Chenfeng no longer had his original cultivation. If the White Ape Demon King had any evil intentions, they wouldn't be able to stop him. Chapter 324. Master, I'm sorry. I don't know why the White Ape Monster King wants to settle a debt from 4,000 years ago with you. I just suddenly met the White Ape Monster King and wanted to seal the power of Spirit Lord Shui, Yu Meng, in Xiao Shui's body. I didn't cause any trouble, right? The first thing Muyu did after returning was to tell his master about this matter. Feng Haochen smiled faintly. It's fine. You didn't do anything wrong. Xiao Shui's matter is much more important than the White Ape Monster King's debt. Master, what is this debt from 4,000 years ago? You weren't even born 4,000 years ago. So what does it have to do with him? Muyu is still puzzled. You'll understand in the future, Feng Haochen said. Don't worry. The White Ape Monster King can't do anything to me. Muyu knew that his master didn't want to explain. He really wanted to ask, but he held back in the end. Just as he walked out, Xiangnan suddenly leaned over mysteriously and said, Junior brother, how does it feel to go to hell on earth? I heard from second senior brother that it's not simple. Muyu didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Hell on earth was indeed not simple. It was too unbridled and unsuitable for Muyu. He said helplessly, Senior brother, if I had known, I would have given this opportunity to you. Keep pretending. You'll probably be overjoyed after going there, right? Luo Shang suddenly walked over from the corner and glanced at Muyu disdainfully. Damn it. If you like going there so much, why did you let me go? Muyu was furious when he thought of Luo Shang. This task should have been given to Luo Shang, but this bastard didn't tell him what it was, and he didn't even tell his master. He had the mentality of going to the battlefield and fighting 1,000 rounds with the enemy. In the end, he was directly welcomed by the spring scenery, and he almost couldn't control himself. Hell on earth was truly a garden full of spring. If you can't even resist this, how can you resist the temptation of Spirit, Lord Yu Meng? I'm only giving you a chance to train. Don't tell me you've already fallen for it. Luo Shang looked at Muyu very coldly. Fallen for it, your sister. Muyu pointed at Luo Shang's nose and cursed, but Luo Shang only snorted and left. Having been to hell on earth once, Muyu didn't want to go there a second time. A young man with high moral values wouldn't be able to accept it. In the following days, everything became very peaceful. Siebulo asked Shimen Wuchang to tell them that he would come here in 5 days, so they were no longer anxious. Then again, 4 years ago, Qingyin and the others had been living here ever since they left the Moyun mountain range. Everyone's life was very low-key, unlike Muyu who went around causing trouble. The cultivation world was always in an uproar because of Muyu. The place was always busy. Muyu had been defending his actions. It was always trouble that came to him, and he accidentally blew the matter out of proportion. Besides, there were some things that he had no choice but to do. Of course, his defense was very weak. In this courtyard, Muyu's cultivation wasn't the highest, but his reputation was the biggest. Yamon's activities in the 3 continents were becoming more and more frequent. Many human residences were secretly attacked by the Yamon. Many mortal residences had set up array formations to resist the Yumon. No one had found out how Yumeng had invaded Misty Breath City back then. However, after learning from Misty Breath City's mistakes, all the cities had strengthened their defenses to avoid a repeat of what had happened in Misty Breath City. Qingyan and Luo Shang had been tracking Yumon's movements. They discovered that the vicinity of Lanshi City seemed to be the Yumon's base on the 3 continents. However, every time they went to search, they only found some shrimp soldiers and crab generals. The Yumon's true strength was basically undiscovered. Mu Yu also gave a rough account of how he left the Moyun mountain range. Even Feng Haochen couldn't help but praise Yumon's creativity in array formations. Kumu basically didn't speak for the past few days. He had a lot of opinions about Feng Haochen and didn't want to talk to Mu Yu. Other than Mu Yu, no one else would accompany him to relieve his boredom. Finally, one day, he said that he wanted to go out and get something. "You really don't need me to go with you?" Mu Yu asked as he leisurely lay on a hammock where Xiang Nin usually lay. "You're not a 3-year-old child. Why should I accompany you?" Kumu left without looking back. However, not long after he left, he ran back with an ashen face and kicked Mu Yu. "Still sleeping? Hurry up and follow me." Kumu's expression was very ugly. Mu Yu yawned and asked, "Didn't you say you don't need me to accompany you? Why do you want to follow you?" "Cut the crap. Just follow me when I tell you to," Kumu said angrily. Okay. Mu Yu stretched and walked slowly behind Kumu. Then he knew why Kumu wanted him to accompany him when he went out. It turned out that Wan, this evil woman, had been waiting for Kumu outside. "Aya, uncle, why are you running so fast? I can't even catch up." Wan smiled sweetly. Mu Yu resisted the urge to laugh out loud and quietly said to Kumu, "Old man, why don't you just follow her? Maybe you can conquer her and try to get her to turn over a new leaf." Kumu unceremoniously slapped Mu Yu on the back of his head and scolded, "Why don't you go follow Xiao Hong and see if you can get her to turn over a new leaf?" When Mu Yu heard that, he tactfully kept quiet. Xiao Hong was a deadly weapon to him. He couldn't afford to offend Xiao Hong. Wherever the two of them went, Wan would always appear like a shadow, which made Kumu very annoyed. However, Mu Yu was also helpless. He couldn't drive Wan away. He thought that it was fortunate that this dog skin plaster didn't stick to him. Otherwise, he would also feel very annoyed. Kumu took Mu Yu away from Luli Street and came to Jiuli Street. They walked to an elegant clinic and stopped in front of it. "Why are we here at clinic?" Mu Yu looked at the clinic called Qingyu in confusion. In fact, medical centers were very common in the cultivation world. Cultivators would often fight each other until their heads were broken and bleeding. Some injuries could be treated by themselves, but there were many injuries that still needed to be treated by others, especially the injuries caused by some demonic beasts, which were poisonous and couldn't be treated by oneself. Most people would choose an alchemist to treat their injuries, but it was too expensive to hire an alchemist. Therefore, there were also some cultivators who weren't alchemists who specialized in researching how to treat injuries. For example, Kumu was researching this. The purpose of his research was actually to treat others. It was just that his hair had turned green because of the poison, so he wasn't liked by others. Kumu didn't answer him and walked straight in. A strong smell of herbs hit him in the face. These herbs were all elixirs for treating injuries. Mu Yu couldn't be more familiar with these things. What greeted his eyes was rows of medicine cabinets marked with all kinds of herbs. The smell of all kinds of herbs came from the medicine cabinets. At this moment, there was a big man sitting on a chair in the clinic. His arm was bleeding profusely. His wound was a strange purple color, and there were a few deep claw marks. It was a shocking sight, as if it was made by some kind of demonic beast. The big man's eyes were closed, and his face was as white as a sheet of paper. Next to him, there was a male and female doctor using all kinds of elixirs to treat the big man. The two doctors used all kinds of methods to stop the big man's bleeding, but it was useless. This is the poison of the Rahu lizard. This kind of poison is very difficult to deal with. We need 7-age grass and martial bamboo root. Xiaoman, do we still have these two herbs? The male doctor's left hand emitted light blue spirit energy to protect the wound as he asked with a serious face. The male and female doctor were husband and wife. They were famous doctors in the 50-mile garden in the south. The man's name was Ji Zitong, and the woman's name was Gu Xiaomin. They were both around 30 years old. They were both nascent soul stage cultivators and were proficient in treating all kinds of demonic beasts and injuries caused by battles in the cultivation world. Most cultivators who relied on hunting demonic beasts to make a living would come here to seek treatment if they were accidentally injured by demonic beasts. I'll go take a look. Gu Xiaomin quickly walked towards the medicine cabinets. When she passed by Kumu, she suddenly looked at him with some confusion and said, "If you two have any injuries, please wait a moment. We still have an injured person here." After she finished speaking, she went to look through the medicine cabinets. Kumu didn't say anything. He just found a chair and sat down. Muyu didn't know why he suddenly came here, but he saw Wan Wan leave with a frown as soon as she stepped into the clinic. It seemed that she didn't like the smell inside. He laughed in his heart. Perhaps Kumu came here to avoid Wan Wan. "Zitong, we ran out of 7-age grass. What should we do?" Gu Xiaomin shouted. "Ran out? No, you have to quickly go to 100 Herb Hall and see if they have any more of this herb. His wound has been infected for 20 hours. Once the poison of the Raho lizard exceeds 24 hours, it can't be cured." Ji Zitong anxiously replied. "Okay, I'll do it as soon as possible." Gu Xiaomin hurriedly replied and wanted to go out. "Don't waste time. Go there and use Blue Wave Ice Thundergrass and Golden Flame Willow Leaf instead of 7-age grass. He could be treated," Kumu said indifferently. Gu Xiaomin suddenly stopped. She looked at Kumu in confusion again and said, "Fellow Taoist, how do you know?" "I experimented." Kumu glanced at Muyu. Muyu almost spat out blood. That's right. Needless to say, he was the test subject. When they were in the valley, Kumu didn't treat him as a human at all and tested all kinds of poisons on him. Muyu could only curse and find a tree to cure the poison that couldn't be cured. "Are you sure? I've never heard of these two herbs." Gu Xiaomin frowned. "Go and try it. Looking at the color of his wound, I estimate that he won't even live for an hour. You won't make in time to go to 100 Herb Hall to buy herbs from here," Kumu said calmly. Gu Xiaomin was a little hesitant, but Muyu had already said, "Don't worry. My family's old man is right. I've also been poisoned by the Rahu lizard. At that time, the one who poisoned me was an eccentric, stuttering old man who didn't know how to care for the younger generation. I can't be wrong." Kumu glared fiercely at Muyu. Because there were many types of demon beasts and countless herbs in the cultivation world, many kinds of poisons were discovered through experiments by doctors. There was no exact pattern. When Gu Xiaomin heard that Muyu was treated like this, she didn't hesitate and hurriedly went to get the two herbs. "Xiaomin, what's wrong with you? Why are you taking these two herbs?" Ji Zitong was a little angry. Just now, those two people said that they used these two herbs to detoxify the poison. I feel that one of them is very familiar, like I've seen him somewhere before. I think he's right. Gu Xiaomin wanted to say something, but stopped. Are they doctors, or are we doctors? We've never tried this kind of detoxification method before. What if something happens? Ji Zitong said, "Hurry up and buy the 7-inch grass." Kumu frowned and said to Muyu, "Go and help them detoxify the poison." Muyu was quite helpless. He just came out to be a bystander. Why did he have to become a doctor? However, he still walked over and said, "Hey, hurry up and move aside. Don't waste any more time. Fellow Taoist, what are you doing? Don't disturb our treatment." However, Muyu had already pushed Ji Zitong away impatiently. He had the strength of an out-of-body stage, so it was more than enough to deal with Ji Zitong. He took the two herbs from Gu Xiaomin's hands and skillfully crushed them into powder. He then took the martial bamboo root from the side and squeezed out the juice from the martial bamboo root. He mixed it with the Blue Wave Ice Thundergrass and then added the Golden Flame Willow Leaf. As soon as the Golden Flame Willow Leaf was mixed, it instantly emitted an unpleasant smell. The powder in Muyu's hand also turned into a pool of golden liquid that gently wriggled. The golden liquid looked like a beating heart, contracting and closing. He spread the golden liquid evenly over the wound on the injured person's arm. The liquid gently pulsed and then slowly seeped into the wound. The man's pale face finally had a trace of color. The wound on his arm also stopped bleeding, and his breathing gradually stabilized. All right, he just needs to rest for 4 to 6 hours. He should wake up. Muyu patted the residue off his hand and sat back down beside Kumu under Jizi Tong and Gu Xiaomin's shocked gazes. You two are. Jizi Tong quickly walked over and sized up Muyu. Then his gaze landed on Kumu. Suddenly, his eyes widened. Your shopkeeper Kumu? Shopkeeper Kumu. Chapter 325. Shopkeeper? Ah, old master, when did you open a shop? Muyu asked in surprise. Kumu nodded and looked at Gu Xiaomin and Jizi Tong. You two have changed a lot. Greetings, shopkeeper. To Muyu's surprise, Jizi Tong and Gu Xiaomin suddenly knelt down in front of Kumu. Both of you get up. I'm no longer the shopkeeper from before. I'm only a cultivator from the Jindan period now. Kumu's voice was a little strange. Jizi Tong and Gu Xiaomin were both nascent soul cultivators. Even his staff from before had a much higher cultivation than him now. Jizi Tong said respectfully, Master Shopkeeper, gratitude has nothing to do with cultivation. You were the one who took us in, taught us medicine, taught us how to cultivate, and even let us run this medical center. We'll never forget that. Yes, Master Shopkeeper, we've heard about you, but our cultivation is too low, so we can't help you. We're sorry. Gu Xiaomin said apologetically. It's okay. I'm lucky. Kumu waved his hand and asked them to stand up. He obviously did not like this kind of etiquette. Jizi Tong and Gu Xiaomin stood up and looked at Muyu. They said respectfully, Are you the famous Muyu? Yes, nice to meet you. Muyu greeted them happily. Jizi Tong and Gu Xiaomin looked at each other and saw a hint of surprise in each other's eyes. Master Shopkeeper, I didn't recognize you just now. It's mainly because you don't look like before. Please forgive me, Master Shopkeeper, Gu Xiaomin said guiltily. It's okay. It's been 30 years. Kumu sighed. I didn't expect you two to still be here. Master Shopkeeper, we don't dare to let you and Master Yuyan's medical center go to waste. Jizi Tong was still a little confused because Kumu had changed so much compared to before. He could only recognize him by looking at Kumu's face. Master Yuyan? Wait, old man, don't tell me this clinic is opened by you and my master's wife? Muyu blinked and asked. The dead tree glanced at Muyu. Do you have a problem with that? No. Why would I have an opinion? Muyu laughed dryly. After Kumu left the Danding sect, he didn't go to the valley. Instead, he opened a clinic in the 50-mile garden in the south. He specialized in treating injured cultivators. According to Kumu himself, this was where he first met Miao Yuyan. At that time, Miao Yuyan was injured by a demonic beast outside. It was Kumu who saved her when he was picking herbs and brought her back. Later, in order to repay Kumu, Miao Yuyan helped Kumu run the clinic. Kumu also changed the name of the clinic to Qingyu, taking a character from each of their names. At that time, Jizi Tong and Gu Xiaomin were the medical hall's assistants and were in charge of running errands. Kumu also taught them a lot of knowledge about herbs. Unfortunately, Miao Yuyan fell in love with Feng Haochen, so Kumu left the clinic to Jizi Tong and Gu Xiaomin. Master Shopkeeper, are you back to take over this clinic again? Jizi Tong looked excited. Kumu knew much more than the two of them. If he could stay, he would definitely be able to help more injured people. Kumu shook his head and said, I'm back to get something. Jizi Tong's face darkened. He was a little disappointed. Then, he seemed to have thought of something and said, Master Shopkeeper, are you here to get the purple glow extreme jade? Kumu nodded. I need the purple glow extreme jade to set up a formation. I'll take it back when I'm done with it. Muyu followed Kumu to the clinic's backyard. There were all kinds of herbs drying in the backyard. There was also a herb garden that took up half of the yard. There were all kinds of precious herbs growing in the herb garden. There were strange formation patterns faintly circulating around the garden, protecting the spiritual energy of all the herbs. In the center of the formation patterns was a huge purple stone. This purple stone was crystal clear and contained a very strong spiritual energy. It was obviously not an ordinary item. What are you going to do with the purple glow extreme jade? Muyu looked at the purple stone curiously. This purple glow extreme jade was the foundation of the entire herb garden's formation. It was the source of spiritual energy for the entire formation. This formation was quite amazing. It could stimulate the growth of all kinds of plants. Those precious herbs could grow quickly under the support of the formation. Do you think I can set up the ninth heaven's devil ceiling formation with my current cultivation level? I have to rely on an innate formation base to provide me with spiritual energy. The ninth heaven's devil ceiling formation is very troublesome, and it consumes a lot of spiritual energy. I can only wrong the spiritual herbs that they have painstakingly planted for now. Kumu walked into the herb garden and began to form complicated hand seals. The formation patterns of the entire herb garden slowly disappeared. After breaking the formation, the spiritual energy in the herb garden instantly began to overflow. "Little Handsome, help me." Muyu grabbed Little Handsome's big tail and said. Little Handsome reluctantly swung his big tail and gathered the overflowing spiritual energy back together. "Take out all the spirit stones you have on you. Go set up a new spirit gathering formation and growth formation. These are the herbs that they have planted. We can't let these herbs die," Kumu said unquestionably. Muyu reluctantly took out all the spirit stones he had on him. Taking everything into account, he had about 5,000 to 6,000 spirit stones. He was still too unfamiliar with setting up formations. During this time, he had been disliked by Kumu. The spiritual energy formation patterns he had carved were also quite irregular. However, he still managed to set up the spirit gathering formation and growth formation. After this is over, you must study the formations I taught you. Formations are a very profound subject. Not only can it be used to set up formations, but it can also be used to fight with others. You are my disciple in any case. You are so clumsy when setting up a formation. You are embarrassing me, Kumu scolded. Among all the cultivators, a formation master's instantaneous explosive power was the strongest. Basically, no one in the same realm dared to face a formation master head-on. Although it was easy for them to lose their stamina when fighting, no one dared to underestimate a formation master. Muyu spread his hands and said, "My master never taught me formations. When you were in the valley, you also only taught me about herbs. What can I do? I am also very desperate." He had 2 formation masters as his masters, but Feng Haochen deliberately did not teach him, and Kumu did not pay attention to it. Thus, Muyu only had a rough understanding of formations. Stop talking nonsense. If you meet a formation master in the future and get beaten to a pulp, you must not tell anyone that you are my disciple, Kumu said unhappily. Muyu pursed his lips. He had not met a formation master until now. Moreover, everyone was very clear about the shortcomings of a formation master. Formation masters could not defeat normal cultivators in a war of attrition. Kumu explained everything to Ji Zitong and Gu Xiaomin. Then, he left the medical center under their respectful gazes. He did not expect Wan Wan to appear out of nowhere. "Aya, uncle, are you done? If you are, come sit on my bed. I like to conquer those uncles who don't like me." Wan Wan was really a persistent, evil woman. It was said that none of the men she fancied had escaped from her hands. She probably would not let Kumu go for a while. Kumu's face was very ugly, but Muyu's face was full of indifference. At least Wan Wan would not do things secretly. Otherwise, Wan Wan would have already made a move on Kumu in the medical center. With Muyu's cultivation, he was still not Wan Wan's opponent. As Muyu listened to Wan Wan's tireless teasing, he couldn't help but burst into laughter. Kumu was very angry and simply wanted to beat Wan Wan to death. Also, this disciple who was clearly protecting him but still took pleasure in his misfortune. Muyu was kicked by him many times. As soon as he turned into the alley, he met 2 familiar faces. Xiao Shui and the White Ape Demon King were also walking over. When Xiao Shui saw Muyu, a look of surprise flashed across her face, but it disappeared in a flash. She looked away, but the White Ape Demon King casually walked over and stared at Muyu with bad intentions. We meet again. Xiao Shui. Let me tell you, you better not think too much about this brat. Last time, he sneaked into hell and was caught red-handed by me. Even I want to go to that kind of place. You really can't judge a book by its cover. F***CK. Old hairy monkey. Can you be a little more shameless? Damn it. You obviously went there yourself, and you're still talking about me? Muyu roared in exasperation. He really did not expect this shameless old demon king to slander him and pretend to be so virtuous. If you didn't go, then how did you know I went there? The white ape demon king laughed sinisterly. I should be the one asking you that. Muyu simply wanted to rush over and fight the white ape demon king for 300 rounds. Of course, that was just a thought. The white ape demon king could easily deal with Muyu with a single breath. Wan leisurely walked to Deadwood's side and held his arm. Little brother Muyu went there, so what? It's not a big deal. I also saw it that day. It's a pity you didn't bring my uncle with you. Otherwise, I would have done something fun with your uncle. Don't you think so, uncle? Deadwood's face flushed red. He quickly broke free from Wan and hurriedly opened the gate of the courtyard and walked in. Muyu pointed at the white ape demon king and said, Wan, look at this uncle. He's also very masculine. Why don't you find a place to play with him? I have something to say to Xiao Shui. TCH, I don't want to do this kind of thing with a beast. Wan obviously knew the white ape demon king's identity. She twisted her waist and slowly left. The white ape demon king kept staring at Wan's small waist. His eyes were shining and he almost drooled. When he couldn't see Wan's shadow anymore, he puffed out his chest and said, Little bastard, do you think everyone's head is filled with lust like you? Damn, who was it that stared at her but for so long? Muyu cursed. How can you be so vulgar? I admire her temperament. The white ape demon king said this without blushing. Muyu felt that he really couldn't speak clearly. Reasoning with this shameless white ape demon king was more tiring than reasoning with people from the evil sections. At this time, Xiao Shui said, Uncle Ape, let me talk to him alone. Daughter, you have to be careful of this kind of two-faced guy. Look at his true face. This kind of person is the most deserving of a beating. He even dares to go to a place like Hell on Earth. Next time, I'll go to Hell on Earth every day to wait for him. Every time I catch him, I'll teach him a lesson. The white ape demon king snorted at Muyu provocatively. He then pushed open the door of the courtyard and walked in. F***CK. He clearly wanted to go to Hell on Earth, yet he came up with such a dignified reason. He was simply shameless to the extreme. In the empty alley, only Muyu and Xiao Shui were left standing face to face. Muyu awkwardly smiled and said, That day, I really didn't go to Hell on Earth, so you really went to Hell on Earth? Xiao Shui looked at Muyu with a smile that wasn't a smile. No, I went, but it wasn't like what you imagined. Muyu wanted to cry, but had no tears. He was thinking about how to explain, but Xiao Shui continued, I know you're not that kind of person. You don't have to explain. Chapter 3:26. Seeing that there was no one around, Muyu summoned the wood spirit. The wood spirit slowly grew and finally turned into a bench made entirely of rattan. There was even a rugged back of the bench. Have a seat. Muyu awkwardly smiled. Back in 8 Grass Village, he knew that he had accidentally done something that caused Xiao Shui to misunderstand. However, the situation back then was urgent, and he didn't explain much. Even now, he still hasn't cleared up the misunderstanding with Xiao Shui. Xiao Shui sat down. She wore a light blue dress that made her look lovely. She had a faint smile on her face, as if she was an untainted fairy. After a long while, she said, It's my wishful thinking. It has nothing to do with you. It's not like that. Actually, you're also very good-looking. Really, you're also a very good girl. Muyu sat beside Xiao Shui. He didn't know what to do. He still felt a trace of guilt toward Xiao Shui, and he didn't want to hold her back. Which part of me is good-looking? Xiao Shui purposely asked. Muyu stuttered. Your eyes, nose, and mouth are all good-looking. Xiao Shui burst into laughter. This was the first time Muyu had seen Xiao Shui laugh. When she laughed, it was as if ice and snow had melted, like a spring breeze caressing her face, graceful as water, causing Mu Yu's heart to be slightly moved. How strange. How did someone as naive as you cause such an uproar in the cultivation world? Is your EQ that low? Xiao Shui asked. Mu Yu scratched his head. He usually liked to talk nonsense in front of others, but he didn't know why he couldn't do it in front of Xiao Shui. Perhaps it was because he had some unspeakable feelings for Xiao Shui, so he didn't have the nerve to talk nonsense with her. I know that you like Tian Ran. Actually, I'm envious of her courage. She dared to stand up for you in front of so many people and even bravely said that she likes you. She's truly a rare girl. She looks like an innocent girl, and she's very compatible with your naive personality. Xiao Shui spoke naturally without any emotions, as if she was looking at this matter from the perspective of a bystander. Mu Yu's heart was indeed occupied by Tian Ran. The time he spent with Tian Ran at Mount Luochen was the happiest time of his life, but Mu Yu had never thought of the word like before. He had always regarded Tian Ran as his younger sister. It wasn't until the dream in the second heavenly layer that he realized that Tian Ran had already lived in his heart. He told himself that the first thing he did when he met Tian Ran was to confess to Tian Ran. However, when they were in Batsao village, Tian Ran was one step ahead of him and announced to everyone that she liked Mu Yu. From that moment on, Mu Yu knew that there was no room for anyone else in his heart. She's a very good girl. I want to protect her. Mu Yu lowered his head and said. Xiao Shui raised her head and looked at the sky. After a long time, she said, and protect her well. She will bring you happiness. This was a very strange feeling. There was a misunderstanding between the two of them, but at this moment, they were talking about another girl. Sometimes, young love was so strange. There would always be one person who would make a concession. Just like how Deadwood chose to withdraw and let Miao Yuyin and Feng Haochen be together. Xiao Shui also chose not to disturb Mu Yu and Tian Ran. The small alley was very quiet. Occasionally, the wind would blow some leaves, causing them to jump on the coarse stone floor and play with each other. If you met me first, would you like me? Xiao Shui suddenly asked. This, Mu Yu felt strange. Xiao Shui's question was the same as the one in the dream. In the fantasy spirit dreamland, Xiao Shui asked Mu Yu, have you never given me a chance? Not even in the dream? At that time, Mu Yu did not think too much about it. He only treated it as a dream. But now, Xiao Shui was also asking Mu Yu if he would give her a chance. I don't know. Mu Yu did not dare to casually make a promise. Sometimes, a person's unintentional words could cause misunderstandings and trouble would follow. Because of a joke, Xiao Shui had developed feelings for him. This should not have happened in the first place. At this moment, he did not want to casually give Xiao Shui hope. Xiao Shui did not mind. The two of them fell into silence again. A few birds flew across the sky. It was quiet and leisurely. Only a few crisp chirps could be heard. After a long time, Xiao Shui asked, why do we have Yumon's ability? She changed the topic. Mu Yu breathed a sigh of relief, and the atmosphere was no longer awkward. Mu Yu said, I'm not sure about that. My master once defeated Spirit Lord Yumon. Spirit Lord Yumon was not satisfied and entered reincarnation. In the end, he attached himself to us. My master has never told us the specific reason. He only hopes that we can be ourselves and not be controlled by the power in our bodies. Your master has a way to seal Yumon's power in our bodies, right? Yes, my master is not an ordinary person. Mu Yu nodded. He did not know how the 9 heavens sealing demon formation would affect them, but he was very sure that his master would not harm them. Even if I'm a demon, your master doesn't mind? Xiao Shui asked curiously. Master won't mind. You should know that the human race hates the Yumeng Devil Clan more than the demon race. We have the abilities of the Yumeng Devil Clan, so no one in the cultivation world would believe us. However, only Master found us and accepted us as disciples. This explains everything. By the way, did you grow up in the demon race? My master couldn't find you. Mu Yu did not understand how Xiao Shui became a member of the demon race. The demon race hated humans. Even if Xiao Shui had Yumon's ability, she was still a human. Why would the demon race accept a human? Xiao Shui shook her head. She seemed to have thought of something and looked slightly disappointed. I grew up in the human race. When I was young, I learned how to control water. Back then, I was too naive and did not know how to hide my ability. I scared my whole family and the villagers. They said that I was a spy sent by Water Yaman and wanted to execute me. Even my father was afraid of me. Do you blame your father? Muyu thought about himself. He was much better at hiding his abilities than Xiao Shui. The village chief had instilled in them the terror of the Yu Meng demon clan since they were young. So when Muyu discovered that he could control trees, he didn't dare to reveal it. Xiao Shui smiled. Why would I blame him? Yaman's ability is destructive to the human race. It's natural for my father to be afraid of me. However, I found a chance to escape. I drifted in the river until I met Big Sister Carp. She did not despise me and introduced me to the other demon race members. What made me happy was that the demon race members were very kind. They accepted my identity and treated me as a member of the demon race. The human race abandoned Xiao Shui, but the demon race accepted her. Therefore, Xiao Shui trusted the demon race more. I'm luckier than you. My master knew of our abilities, but he did not treat us as abnormal. Instead, he taught us the most correct way to conduct ourselves. My abilities were also imparted to me by him. Muyu felt very fortunate because the village chief and his master, who were the only ones who knew of his ability, chose to believe in him. If you follow Jian Ying and Chun Feng, the others will be safe. Your master is a true god who once defeated 5 spirit lords Yu Meng. If a true god can even take down 5 spirit lords Yu Meng, why would he not be able to take down a few half-human, half-Yu Meng? Xiao Shui smiled. Although she was a demon, she had naturally heard of Jian Ying and Chun Feng, who were revered as true gods by the human race. Muyu scratched his head and said, You're right. In fact, my master has been looking for you. He found 4 of us, but he couldn't find you. If it weren't for my good luck, I wouldn't have met you. Grandpa Azure Dragon gave me some protection so that I would not be found. Xiao Shui said, The Azure Dragon Demon King was the leader of the 10 Demon Kings. 1,000 years ago, there was a great war between the human race and the demon race. Of the 10 Demon Kings, he was the only one who managed to escape. He brought the remaining demon race members to live in seclusion in a desolate place. The appearance of the White Ape Demon King had already caused many human sects to feel threatened. If the Azure Dragon Demon King was added, many sect masters and elders might not be his match. That old monkey seems to be very good to you. Muyu became angry when he thought of the White Ape Demon King. This guy had been deliberately slandering him earlier and even thought of himself as a noble and virtuous person. Truly shameless. Don't call him that. Because I saved him. If the other demons in the clan were to be rude to me, they would be beaten up by him. Xiao Shui couldn't hide her smile. Although the White Ape Demon King was careless, he was still a loyal demon. Muyu curled his lips and said, I was the one who sacrificed myself to save him. So why isn't he thanking me? He even slandered my innocence earlier. Xiao Shui smiled and said, Actually, back at 8 Grass Village, he revealed your identity to force you into a corner and then save you so that you would submit to our demon race. However, I know that this is impossible. You will never betray the human race. TCH, thanks to him, I ran faster. Muyu wasn't optimistic about this old monkey. Where was the dignity of a demon king? He was clearly a hooligan. Yonkai even suspected that if the entire monster race had been brought out by this monkey, wouldn't the monster race become a hooligan race? We will eventually meet Yaman face to face. Whether we stand on the side of the human race or the monster race, our common enemy will always be Yaman. I'm very happy that I don't have to stand on the opposite side of you. Xiao Shui's water spirit slipped down from her waist and landed on the rattan chair that Mu Ling had transformed into. As soon as the water spirit and wood spirit came into contact with each other, an indescribable sense of joy spread from the wood spirit and water spirit to the hearts of their respective masters, so joyful and full of vitality. Muyu looked at Xiao Shui in surprise and found that Xiao Shui was also looking back at him. This feeling of telepathy made it seem as if there was no barrier between the two of them. Everything seemed to flow naturally and smoothly, and Muyu could even clearly feel Xiao Shue's heartbeat. Xiao Shue blushed and quickly took back her water spirit. This had never happened to her before. Muyu's heartbeat also began to accelerate. He remembered that the combination of the water spirit and Mu Ling was quite powerful. However, at that time, the water spirit only responded to Mu Ling and had nothing to do with him, but today he could clearly see Xiao Shue's heart and the feeling she had for him. Your Mu Ling seems to like my water spirit very much. Xiao Shue secretly glanced at Muyu and said with uncertainty. Muyu felt a little embarrassed. Naturally, he was well aware of the wood spirit's thoughts. When this broken thing had met the water spirit, it had behaved very strangely, as if it really liked the water spirit. At that moment, a violent aura suddenly rose from the courtyard behind them. This aura was so overbearing that it caused Muyu and Xiao Shue's expressions to change slightly. Old hairy monkey, what are you doing? Muyu immediately stood up. This overbearing aura belonged to none other than the White Ape Demon King. No one in the courtyard was a match for the White Ape Demon King. If the White Ape Demon King were to make a move, everyone would be in trouble. Chapter 327. In a courtyard, the White Ape Demon King stood there, a palpitating aura faintly circulating around his body. Cheng Yin and Luo Shang stood at the front, their faces grim as they protected the others behind them. Both sides seemed to be at loggerheads over something. Old hairy monkey, is there something wrong with you? When Muyu rushed in, she was also startled by the aura of the White Ape Demon King. At this moment, the White Ape Demon King's expression was no longer that of a ruffian. On the contrary, it was very cold, with a hint of killing intent. Xiao Shue flashed and landed in front of the White Ape Demon King. She hurriedly asked, Uncle Ape, what are you doing? The White Ape Demon King snorted and stared at Feng Haochen. Jinning, Chun Feng, you used the spiritual chi to exhaust my spiritual energy. Shouldn't we talk about compensation? Everyone looked at the White Ape Demon King in confusion. They didn't understand what he was talking about. The White Ape Demon King was an old monster from 1,000 years ago. How could Jinning and Chun Feng have a grudge against him? Muyu suddenly thought of something. He remembered that there was a spiritual chi under the array that trapped the White Ape Demon King in the second layer of heaven. On the other side of that spiritual chi was the spiritual chi of Luo Chuncliffe. If this was a coincidence, even Muyu didn't believe it. He always felt that his master had left little Shuai there for some other purpose. Could it be that his master really had something to do with the White Ape Demon King being trapped? Feng Haochen looked at the White Ape Demon King thoughtfully and said, I was just thinking about when to meet you. I didn't expect you to take the initiative to come here. Now that I'm here, we should settle this account. The White Ape Demon King sneered. Feng Haochen shook his head. The one who trapped you was not me, but someone else. You need to understand this. Of course I know it's Phantom Rain, but what's the difference? You humans don't dare to resist, but we monsters can't resist either? What? Phantom Rain isn't with you? Is he hiding because he's too timid? The White Ape Demon King's eyes flashed with anger. Phantom Rain? A familiar name flashed through Muyu's mind. When he was at Six Rays Mountain, it was Phantom Qing Yu who had cleverly protected the 9-Chi Soul cleansing flower with an array formation. At that time, Muyu still remembered that it was Phantom Qing Yu who had knocked down one of the mountain peaks of Six Rays Mountain. White Ape Demon King, watch your words. Some things are better left unsaid. Feng Haochen frowned. White Ape Demon King glanced at the others around him and clenched his fists. He then said, I'm not as timid as you guys. One day, I'll continue to prove myself to you. You and I are the same, but I have my own principles. White Ape Demon King's words were somewhat inexplicable. Aside from Feng Haochen, no one else seemed to understand what he meant. White Ape Demon King angrily swung his hand and turned to leave. Xiao Shue, let's leave this place. Muyu grabbed Xiao Shue and said, she can't leave. The power of spirit Lord Yu Meng in her body needs to be sealed. The white ape demon king glared fiercely at Muyu. I don't need your help. You'll get her killed. Feng Haochen said, only I can help these children. If you can see the big picture, you should understand what this means. White ape demon king wanted to say something, but hesitated. Then, he angrily said to Feng Haochen, fine, but you must remember that many things won't pass so easily. We are all existences forgotten by time, but that doesn't mean that you can make decisions for us. White ape demon king didn't stay any longer and left alone. He had been restraining his anger, forcing himself not to attack these people. But when he walked to the door of the small courtyard was still shattered by his aura. Xiao Shui and Mu Yu didn't understand what was going on. White Ape Demon King and Feng Haochen seemed to be old acquaintances, but when they talked, they seemed to be deliberately avoiding something, saying all kinds of strange things. But this didn't make sense. White Ape Demon King was a person from 1,000 years ago. At that time, Feng Haochen shouldn't have been born yet. So, how did they know each other? What was the meaning of a 4,000-year debt? What happened? That old hairy monkey didn't do anything to anyone, right? Muyu quickly asked. Xiao Shui also wanted to know. She didn't leave with White Ape Demon King because White Ape Demon King was persuaded by Feng Haochen to seal the power of Spirit Lord Yu Meng in her body. Qingyan shook his head and said, when White Ape Demon King saw Master, he seemed to have eaten the wrong medicine. I don't understand what he was angry about. Everyone looked at Feng Haochen, waiting for his explanation. Feng Haochen had too many secrets. Everyone only knew a little about his past. So, how did he get involved with White Ape Demon King now? Regarding Phantom Rain, other than Mu Yu, no one knew his origin. Phantom Rain had the ability to seal the Demon King, which was enough to show that his cultivation had already reached the peak. So who is he? Just pretend that you didn't see what happened today. There are some things that you can't control. When you have enough strength, you will naturally understand. Feng Haochen didn't want to explain what kind of relationship he had with White Ape Demon King. White Ape Demon King was such a casual person, yet he chose not to attack Feng Haochen. It really made people curious. No one dared to refute Feng Haochen's words. His current cultivation level might not be the highest in this courtyard, but his words carried the most weight. Feng Haochen nodded to Xiao Shui kindly and then walked towards his room. The others looked at each other, but no one knew the ins and outs of the whole matter. Muyu had the most doubts in his heart because he had heard about Phantom Rain. He also knew that the spirit chi eye of Luo Chan Cliff was closely related to the array formation that trapped White Ape Demon King, but he only knew this. Muyu introduced Xiao Shui to everyone. Xiao Shui originally thought that her identity as a demon clansman would be rejected. However, she worried too much because there were 4 people who had similar abilities as her. Everyone didn't look at Xiao Shui differently because she stood on the demon clansman's side. Xiao Shui jumped from Lan Ling, Er's embrace into Xiao Shui's embrace. All the female killers in the courtyard. He ate them all. Soon, Xiao Shui, Lan Ling, and Qing Mei started chatting. Girls always had all kinds of things to talk about. Unlike Muyu, who always felt that his brain short-circuited when facing Xiao Shui and couldn't speak properly. Old man, do you know about the relationship between my master and White Ape Demon King? Muyu sat opposite Kumu and brewed a pot of tea with a puzzled expression. Kumu glanced at Muyu and said, I know a little. If some things were said, it would be too shocking. At that time, even I couldn't believe it. In short, you should listen to that guy and don't think about these things. Although I don't like your master, I have to admit that he is truly powerful. Many things aren't as simple as you think. Before you reach that guy's cultivation, you shouldn't know about these things. He seemed to have thought of something, and a trace of undetectable fear appeared on his face. In the end, he shook his head and dispelled that thought. Kumu had also inadvertently learned of some things. Those things had troubled him for a long time. Even though his cultivation was once quite high, he was still very shocked when facing those things. Tisk, you're so secretive like a quack. Muyu curled his lips. Muyu, come here for a moment. Qingyan smiled politely at Kumu, then waved at Muyu. Seeing that Qingyan seemed to have something to discuss, Muyu followed Qingyan to his room and found that Luo Shang, Xiao Shui, and Xiang were also there. Qingyan's expression was serious. He asked Muyu to find a place to sit down and said, Muyu, Xiao Shui said that you were attacked by the Yuman in the second layer of heaven. Is that true? Muyu nodded. He didn't understand why Qingyan was asking about this. The second layer of heaven and the third layer of heaven were once inhabited by humans, demons, and Yuman. However, for some reason, the demons and humans disappeared. The second layer of heaven originally didn't have any other races apart from demons. So it goes without saying that the Yuman in the second layer of heaven came from here. I have been investigating how Yuman entered the second layer of heaven, but there has been no progress. Tell me the details of the situation at that time, and see if there are any abnormalities. Qingyan said. Muyu and Xiao Shui told everyone in detail about their encounter with Tu Yuming. However, at that time, the two of them were only focused on running away. They didn't know much and couldn't provide any help to Qingyan. What we know now is that the Yuman is most active near Mist Breath City. However, that place is very remote. The Yuman knows the 5 elements escape technique, so it's very difficult for ordinary cultivators to enter their territory. The last time I went to investigate, I can confirm that there is more than one 8-grass village in the vicinity of Mist Breath City. The spiritual Qi I is the key to heading towards the second heaven, Qingyan said. Muyu had followed the 2 Huayu Meng to their nest, so the 5 elements escape technique was useless against him. The 8 grass villages' spiritual Qi I was already protected and occupied by various large sections. Muyu was too lazy to ask about the specifics of how to deal with it. Cheng Wei continued, We all know that the spiritual Qi in the second layer of heaven is much richer than in the third layer of heaven. The cultivation speed in the second layer of heaven is several times faster than here. The spiritual Qi is not only effective for us, but also for the Yuman. Then, does the Yuman plan to occupy the second layer of heaven? Isn't that good for us? They won't have to fight for territory with us in the third layer of heaven. Xiangnan was very optimistic. If the Yuman chose to occupy the second layer of heaven and give up on the third layer of heaven, it was indeed a good thing. Luo Shang shook his head slightly and said, It's not that simple. The Yuman used to live in the second layer of heaven, but whether it was the Yuman, the demon race, or the human race, they were all massacred in the second layer of heaven. No one knows the reason behind it. However, if there is something that can wipe out the 3 races, it means that it could do it again. The Yuman probably didn't enter the second layer of heaven to live there, but to recuperate and return to the third layer of heaven to fight with us. The human race's conditions to enter the second layer of heaven were severely restricted, so they couldn't use the spiritual Qi in the second layer of heaven to increase their strength. However, the Yuman were a stubborn and mysterious race. They were very proficient in the 5 elements escape technique. If they weren't restricted in entering the second layer of heaven, their overall strength would soon surpass the human race with the help of the rich spiritual Qi in the second layer of heaven. Then what can we do now? Xiao Shui asked. Although she didn't interact much with the people here and had different standpoints, she could only stand on the same side as the other 4 when it came to the Yuman's matter. After the 9 heavens sealing devil formation is completed, we will have to make a trip to the Yuman's territory near Mist Breath City. Everyone will infiltrate the Yuman and gather more information, Qingyan said slowly. Chapter 328. The time to lay down the 9 heavens sealing devil formation with Xie Bulo was quickly approaching. Xie Bulo was slowly walking over. He still looked lazy and sleepy, but for some reason, his aura seemed to have undergone some changes. As for what kind of change he had, Muyu was unable to tell. In any case, this person was emitting evil Qi from head to toe. He was definitely not a good person. As the leader of evil sect, his arrival was as unwelcome as White Ape Demon King. Everyone more or less knew that Xie Bulo had been clamoring to chop off Sword Shadow, Chen Feng's finger. Therefore, the moment he arrived, everyone vigilantly stared at him. Why are you all looking at me like this? Is there something dirty on my face? Xie Bulo reached out his hand and touched his face. He really thought that there was dust on his face. Muyu stared at Xie Bulo's right hand in astonishment. She didn't know when, but there was an extra finger on the side of Xie Bulo's right thumb. Including the time he met Wu Yin in Luin Yuan, Muyu had seen Xie Bulo twice. He was certain that Xie Bulo's right hand was completely normal during those 2 times. There was no extra finger. But now that Muyu looked at Xie Bulo's right hand, that 6th finger seemed to have existed for countless years. It didn't have any abrupt feeling. Compared to other fingers, it didn't have any difference. 6th finger has grown out. Feng Haochen sat on a stool and looked at Xie Bulo with a relaxed expression. Xie Bulo saw Feng Haochen and immediately walked over with his big belly. He sat down in front of Feng Haochen and proudly said, "6 evils. It has been a long time since we last met. I feel that if you still had your cultivation, I would definitely not lose to you." This was 6 evils? Xie Bulo touched the 6th finger of his right hand, as if he was looking at an extraordinary treasure. Muyu suddenly understood what Shimen Wuji meant when he said 6 evils that day. It turned out that the so-called 6 evils was Xie Bulo's 6th finger. No wonder when Xie Bulo accepted disciples, he made them swear to chop off the fingers of Sword Shadow, Chun Feng's disciple, before killing him. It turned out that Sword Shadow Chun Feng had once chopped off Xie Bulo's 6th finger. Muyu had seen the power of the 6th finger. Back then, Xie Bulo had only opened the brocade box by a slit, and an indescribable evil aura had gushed out, turning everything in the room evil. It was extremely strange. Feng Haochen shook his head helplessly. "If you use the 6 evils to cause trouble, I'll find a way to cut it down again." Xie Bulo shook his 6th finger in disdain. He was able to control the movements of his 6th finger with ease. His 6th finger now looked like an ordinary finger. It didn't have the evil aura of that day. "You're no longer that Jianing Chun Feng, so stop threatening me." I feel that after Lu Xie came back, he seemed to have become 50 years younger. Let me tell you, when I was having sex with the female elder of Inexhaustible Cloud's sect last night, I finally tried a difficult move on the bed that I had never dared to try before. That's enough. Can you not be so disrespectful? Don't you feel embarrassed in front of this group of juniors? Feng Haochen's face was filled with helplessness. What's so embarrassing about it? Everyone laughed at me for being too crazy, and I laughed at him for not being able to see through it. You see, we're all unusual people, so we have to do something different. You and Phantom Rain, these 2 serious people are enough. I'll just be in charge of doing happy things. Xie Bulo seemed to have changed into a different person. He didn't blame Feng Haochen. Instead, he proudly showed off his principles. Muyu noticed that Xie Bulo mentioned Phantom Rain again. The White Ape Demon King once said that Phantom Rain was the person who sealed him. Muyu even saw the formation left behind by Phantom Rain in the 2nd layer of heaven. How did this Phantom Rain know my master? What kind of divine being is he? Since you are here, we should start preparing the 9 heavens sealing devil formation. Feng Haochen clearly understood Xie Bulo's temperament. He didn't want to continue arguing with him. Xie Bulo's gaze swept around and landed on Kumu. He playfully said, "You actually invited your love rival, Kumu Chongqing. I really envy your courage." "Oh, right. I said that Kumu would get into trouble sooner or later if he cultivated poison. I was right. You will also get into trouble if you cultivate evil energy." Kumu didn't hold back. Xie Bulo didn't get angry at all. He said, "You still have that weird temper. Why don't you change it? Strange, we obviously know each other. Why didn't we recognize each other that day at Luin Garden?" Kumu snorted. "You really know how to disguise yourself. One moment you are white-haired, and the next moment you are a middle-aged man. Who would recognize you?" However, Kumu changed a lot after he lost his cultivation and took the returning to origin pill. It was normal that Xie Bulo didn't recognize him. See, the person with the lowest cultivation also has the worst temper. Forget it. I'm in a good mood today. Since you know how to set up the formation, I won't bicker with you. Let's go to the empty land. The 9 heavens sealing devil formation is suitable there. Xie Bulo stood up and lazily walked out of the door. "And Ping, wait for us here with Ling, and Qing Mei. We'll be back soon. Feng Haochen instructed, and Shu nodded. Lan Ling was a bit disappointed. She had planned to join in the fun. Xiao Shuai didn't go either. He was lying on the table lazily and eating. After coming here, he had lived a very comfortable life. He often drilled himself into the girl's breasts. He was extremely shameless. What is the empty land? Muyu didn't understand. The empty land is a place where the 5 elements can't be controlled at will, Kumu said. There is such a place? Where is it? Muyu continued to ask. It was reasonable to say that if the 5 elements couldn't be controlled at will, it must be a place where the 5 elements didn't exist. However, it was impossible for it to be a place where metal, wood, water, fire, and earth didn't exist. Everything in the world was made up of the 5 elements. Humans were no exception. The 5 elements existed in every corner of the 3 continents. However, humans were a miraculous combination of the 5 elements. They had the characteristics of the 5 elements. However, because the 5 elements were combined together, they reinforced and restrained each other. Therefore, Yaman couldn't control humans. In the sky, there shouldn't be any of the 5 elements in the sky, right? Xiangnan asked. There is mist in the sky. Although the amount is small, it doesn't mean that there isn't any, Xiao Shui said politely. That place is very secretive. You don't need to know where it is. Just follow me. Xie Bulo led everyone away from the 50-mile garden in the south and headed north. Only Feng Haochen and Xie Bulo knew the extent of Xie Bulo's cultivation. He directly led everyone to break through the void. After 2 hours, he reappeared. They landed in a very mystical place. As far as the eye could see, there were all kinds of tall and slender stone peaks everywhere. Each stone peak was a few hundred meters tall, and the walls of the stone peaks were covered with lush plants. Below the stone peaks was a flowing river. One could not see the end of the river as far as the eye could see. The center of each stone peak was filled with lava. The lava boiled and jumped, but didn't splash out. It didn't ignite the plants on the stone peaks. The plants were full of vitality. They weren't affected by the temperature of the lava at all. The stone peaks were inlaid with all kinds of shiny metal ores. They were extremely dazzling under the sunlight. This is the ethereal land? Muyu was surprised. He could clearly sense the vigorous vitality of the plants on the stone peaks. Those plants couldn't be fake. Not only him, but Chengyan, Luo Shang, Xiangnan, and Xiao Shui were also puzzled. They could all sense the 5 elements that they were familiar with. Shouldn't the ethereal land be a place where the 5 elements didn't exist? No matter how they looked at it, this place felt like the gathering place of the 5 elements. What do you know? Don't think that this place has the 5 elements. It's actually a forbidden area in the Yuman. If you don't believe me, go and try it yourself, Xiebulo said. Indeed, the 5 of them didn't believe this. Muyu took a step forward and landed on a pine tree near the stone peak. He could clearly sense the powerful vitality of the pine tree. He could even see the pine tree's vitality pulsating. Its roots were extending into the crevices, and its leaves were sprouting. He touched the branches of the pine tree, and with a thought, he wanted the pine tree to grow faster. However, a strange resistance came from the pine tree. The pine tree did not sprout according to his wishes, but stood motionless on the cliff. Xiao Shui stood on the surface of the water with her brows furrowed. She was in the same situation as Muyu. There was clearly an endless river here, but she couldn't control it. It was as if her ability to control water had disappeared. Luo Shang stood at the edge of the lava. He reached his hand into the lava and gently stirred it. The temperature of the lava was extremely high. It could instantly turn a person into ashes. However, it didn't affect him at all. Even so, he couldn't control the lava. Chengyan and Xiangnan were also puzzled. The ores on the cliff weren't under Chengyan's control, and the rocks on the cliff had also lost contact with Xiangnan. They had never encountered such a situation before. The 5 elements of metal, wood, water, fire, and earth are in a relatively balanced state. The 5 elements reinforce and suppress each other. If you want to control one of them, you will be hindered by the other 4 elements. Therefore, the Yuman of the five elements ability is ineffective. It's impossible to break the balance here. Even the five Yuman of the five elements couldn't make use of the terrain here, Feng Haochen explained. The so-called ethereal land didn't mean that the five elements didn't exist. It meant that the five elements were balanced. Everyone was wrong about this. We humans are a balanced body of the five elements. Although we have the elements of the five elements in our bodies, no human can break this balance. Therefore, you can't kill us by stripping us of the five elements. The terrain here relies on the principle of the balance of the five elements in the human body. You can only control the five elements you bring with you, but you can't destroy the mountains, rivers, grass, and trees here. Feng Haochen had never explained the principle of the five elements to them before. Now that he explained it, everyone was enlightened. Although the Yuman had powerful combat strength, they had their own weaknesses. They would always be restrained by the Yuman of the other elements. Humans had fought with the Yuman for millions of years. They had a thorough understanding of the Yuman. It was a very strange way of thinking to think of using the five elements to suppress the Yuman's ability. But I still don't understand. Master, you said that we are humans too. There should be a balance of the five elements in our bodies. However, if Spirit Lord Yuman can't break this balance, why can a few of us have the ability to control the five elements? Muyu asked. Feng Haochen stroked his white beard and said with a smile, "This involves everyone's fate. Although everyone's five elements are balanced, it's impossible for everyone to have the same amount of five elements in their bodies. There will be more or less deviations. For example, some people are born lacking wood elements. This doesn't mean that they don't have wood elements in their bodies. It's just that their wood element is weaker than the other elements. However, it's not enough to break the balance of the five elements. As for the five of you, take Muyu as an example. The wood element in your body is very abundant, while the other four elements are almost absent. You are of the wood element, and you lack four elements. This rare physique was discovered by Spirit Lord Yuman in the cycle of reincarnation and reincarnated into your body. It's the same for the others. If Spirit Lord Yuman wanted to live in a human body, he had to find a suitable body. Muyu and the others had a rare physique, which was found by Spirit Lord Yuman. Thus, they also had Spirit Lord Yuman's abilities. Do you know why there's so many babies in the world that die naturally soon after birth? It's because the five elements in their bodies are out of balance when they are born. They don't reach the lowest state of balance, so they don't live for long. The closer the five elements in their bodies are to the perfect balance of the five elements, the longer their lifespan will be. As for the five of you, your bodies are seriously out of balance. You should have died the moment you were born, but you were lucky enough to be possessed by Spirit Lord Yuman. That's why you survived, Siebulo said with a face full of ridicule. There were people who would have died the moment they were born. Chapter 329. Muyu and the other four were extremely shocked, and a strange feeling emerged in their hearts. According to Siebulo's words, they were originally humans who couldn't survive, but they relied on the power of the five-element spirit, Lord Yu Meng, to survive. It seemed that the five spirit lords Yu Meng had saved their lives. Thinking of this, Muyu couldn't hate the sleeping spirit, Lord Yu Meng. After all, with their physiques, they should have died not long after they were born, but the parasitic power of the spirit Lord Yu Meng had allowed them to survive. Muyu and the other four smiled bitterly at each other. It turned out that they weren't special, but people who shouldn't have survived. What would happen if the five elements in a person's body reached a perfect balance? Muyu asked. If they weren't killed by an external force, they would obtain the ability to live forever. However, there are too few people who have reached a perfect balance of the five elements in their bodies, and there are no more than 20 people in the human race. There are two in front of you. Siebulo casually hooked his arm around Feng Haochen's shoulder and said proudly, "What? Jian Ing, Chun Feng, and Siebulo. The two of them were actually existences with eternal life?" Muyu was extremely shocked. Eternal life meant that they wouldn't die, and such people really existed. He glanced at Cheng Yin and the others, and they were also extremely shocked. It was obvious that they didn't know about this matter either. Siebulo, there are some things that shouldn't be said. Feng Haochen helplessly touched his forehead. He couldn't do anything about Siebulo's big mouth. What? Are you worried that your disciple will covet your immortal physique? Siebulo mocked. You know what I'm worried about? Feng Haochen frowned. Siebulo snorted and muttered. The people of the third palace aren't here, and the dead tree already knows about it, so it doesn't matter if they know. Master, you are a person with eternal life. So how old are you? Muyu swallowed a mouthful of saliva and asked resentfully. He suddenly understood why the white ape demon king, who had lived for several thousand years, wanted to settle accounts with his master. They probably knew each other several thousand years ago. Feng Haochen blinked his eyes, looked at the sky, and sighed. How old am I? I can't remember. Also, the 10 great demon kings of the demon race are also considered as eternal existences. Azure Dragon and I are old acquaintances. Your master is even older than me, so he should be considered as my grandfather. Siebulo was very proud of himself. No wonder Siebu Lao was able to convince Azure Dragon not to cause more trouble for the human race. He was an evil person who had lived for a very long time. Just like Azure Dragon, he was an immortal being. Naturally, they would know each other. If my master is your grandfather, then aren't we in your father's generation? Muyu blurted out. A wave of evil energy immediately spread out, and Siebulo angrily said, Brat, do you want to die? Even if this guy is a few hundred years older than me, I'm still a few thousand years older than you. You'll have to call me your grandfather many times over. Muyu recalled what the white ape demon king had said to Feng Haochen a few days ago. We are all people who have been forgotten by time. So this was what he meant. The white ape demon king must have known Jianing and Chun Feng for a long time, which was why he said such a thing. As for the so-called phantom Qingyu, if Muyu did not guess incorrectly, he should be one of the immortals. After laying down the heaven and earth formation, your master will soon die. When this guy was setting up the immortal confinement prison, I was against it. I said that his brain was cramping. There were still so many beautiful women waiting for him to die. After living for a few thousand years, he still didn't return my 6 evils to me. I'm about to die from anger. Siebulo cursed. Feng Haochen glanced at Siebulo and said, Living for a long time is not a good thing. Because many things have become indifferent, death is no longer so scary. Let me tell you a secret. Your master loved 3 women in his life. 2 of them died, so he didn't dare to talk about love anymore. He said that he couldn't bear to see the women he loved die while he continued to live an ignoble life. In my opinion, daughters are like clothes. If they die, just change them. If you can't die forever, why would you be afraid of not being able to find a better one? I despise him the most. 500 years ago, when his second lover, Hua Wujing, died of old age, he was so infatuated that he wanted to commit suicide with her. If I didn't pull him back, your master wouldn't have existed. Siebulo's words were shocking. You shouldn't have pulled him back. Kumu timely interrupted. If Feng Haochen didn't exist, he and Miao Yuyin might have been together. Feng Haochen sighed and said, Siebulo, are you done? Siebulo shook his head and said, I'm not done. Then, he met Miao Yuyin a few decades ago. He, who hadn't been in love for 500 years, suddenly reignited from the ashes and fell in love with Miao Yuyin. Oh right, I forgot that there was another suitor for Miao Yuyin. Miao Yuyin didn't know that our old monster Chen Feng was immortal. Between Kumu and Chen Feng, she chose Chen Feng. This time, he was even more foolish. He actually prepared to spend the rest of his life with Miao Yuyin. So, he made himself into the formation base of the immortal confining prison. He wanted to spend the rest of his life with Miao Yuyin. Siebulo paused. He realized that being able to expose Jian Ying Chunfeng's shortcomings in front of the younger generation was very satisfying. Jian Ying Chunfeng couldn't shut Siebulo up now. He continued, Unfortunately, the ending wasn't very good. Miao Yuyan, as the saintess of the Red Dust sect, shouldn't have been in love. At this moment, the immortal confining prison started to take effect. Our love, Saint Shanfeng's cultivation fell, and he couldn't elope with Miao Yuyan. The threefold palace went against their agreement. Feeling disheartened and guilty, Love Saint hid in the Mayun mountain range and prepared to die with the people there. If you had returned the 6 evils to me earlier, I would have rushed to the Red Dust sect and snatched Miao Yin back for you. Why did you have to be so bitter? You used the 6 evils too often. Many innocent people were demonized by you. How could I return the 6 evils to you? Feng Haochen's tone was mixed with a hint of anger. However, Kumu suddenly became angry. No one expected him to explode in anger. So, you could have asked Xie to save Yu Yin, but you didn't want to do so? In your eyes, Xie 6 evils is more precious than Yu Yin, right? I thought you would treat her well. Now that I think about it, I was wrong. You can't even compare to Yu Yin's happiness. Your mind is full of benevolence and righteousness. You want to be the hero of the world, but you don't dare to be the husband of the woman you love? You're a coward. How dare you say that you love her? For her, I could put down my prejudice against you and let you recover your cultivation to save her. But what about you? What have you done for her? No one had expected the dead tree to be so angry. Xiebo Lao Da's tongue had pointed out this matter clearly, letting the dead tree know some secrets. Kumu knew that Feng Haochen was an immortal, and that was why he chose to withdraw. He thought that Feng Haochen could give Miao Yuyan the best life. But he was wrong. The old Jian Ing Chun Feng had become the weak Feng Haochen because of the immortal confining prison. He thought that Feng Haochen couldn't save Miao Yuyan because he lost his cultivation. Kumu didn't have the ability to break into the Red Dust sect, so he tried his best to help Feng Haochen recover his cultivation. He wanted Feng Haochen to save Miao Yuyan. Feng Haochen could have asked Xie to help, but he didn't. Miao Yuyan was imprisoned by the Red Dust sect for more than 20 years. Feng Haochen was silent. He wanted to be the hero of the world, but he didn't dare to be the husband of the woman he loved. This sentence hurt him deeply. From the moment he saw his daughter, Tian Ran, he knew that he was wrong, but he didn't dare to make up for it. He fell in love with 2 people, but neither of them left behind a child because he was afraid of watching his children grow old. But Miao Yuyan secretly gave birth to Tian Ran. This was something he didn't expect. After a long time, Feng Haochen said softly, "Even if I saved Yuyan at that time, I couldn't protect her. She had the Red Dust sect's mark on her, and she would be found no matter where she went. If I wanted to bring her into the immortal confining prison, she would have to give up her cultivation. Think about it. What would happen to you after you lost your cultivation? How long would you live without the origin returning pill? How long would she live?" Kumu clenched his fists, then loosened them. He couldn't refute Feng Haochen's words. This was a dilemma. When he lost his cultivation, his body became very old. He almost lost his life after quarreling with the old man. Miao Yuyan was about the same age as him. If she lost her cultivation, she wouldn't be in a good situation. If you love someone, you didn't want to see them suffer. This was Kumu's love. If you love someone, you didn't want them to lose their life. This was Feng Haochen's love. "Oh, so you're all Casanova," Xie sneered, as if he was an outsider watching the show. He only knew how to seek pleasure in the flesh, but he didn't really love a woman. He didn't understand these things. Muyu felt an indescribable panic in his heart. His master had made a wrong choice. He had given his cultivation to the 3rd palace, causing him to be unable to stay with Miao Yuyan. But now he also liked Tian Ran. Tian Ran was the Red Dust sect's holy maiden, and it was taboo for her to be with a man. How could he face Tian Ran in the future? How could he face the enormous Red Dust sect? "My Casanova, I don't want to see you die. Don't you know that the guardian of the 3rd palace isn't a good person? He has always been coveting something from us. Have you forgotten?" Xie said, "I know. The guardian wants to obtain the ability of eternal life from me. He wants to wait until I die and my body completely breaks free from the immortal confining prison. Then, he will use the power of the gate of hell to seize my body. At that time, although my soul will die, my body will still be immortal." Feng Haochen snorted. The secret of eternal life was something that everyone coveted. Everyone's lifespan was limited. There were too few people in the human race who had the physique of eternal life. Jianing, Chun Feng, and Xie Bulo were both existences with exceedingly high cultivation. The people of the Gate of Hell and the Gate of Life and Death had always chased after eternal life. They sent people to the Moyun mountain range to control Feng Haochen. They also went to the second layer to kill the White Ape Demon King and obtain his body of eternal life. Unfortunately, their plans were unintentionally destroyed by Mu Yu. In the Moyun mountain range, Mu Yu, who had lost control, seriously injured Gue Xianwei. In the second layer, Mu Yu, who wanted to help Qiao Shui, killed Gue Xianwei. How could he know that these two things were related to the secret of eternal life? Feng Haochen was a person who had lived for several thousand years. He knew that the guardian of the third palace had a clear understanding of the movements of the Gate of Hell. If it wasn't for the guardian's tacit approval, how could the Gate of Hell dare to enter the Moyun mountain range so brazenly and target Jian Ying and Chun Feng? It was likely that the guardian had intentionally instructed the Gate of Hell to do these things. If they succeeded, Jian Ying, Chun Feng, and the White Ape Demon King's bodies of eternal life would all fall into the hands of the guardian. The third palace was a mysterious giant. Everyone in the cultivation world had to listen to their orders. No one dared to challenge their prestige. However, no matter how powerful they were, they couldn't escape death. People with supreme power were most afraid of death. Chapter 330. The matter of immortality involved too many things. Feng Haochen had never revealed this secret because he didn't want to drag more people into it. If they weren't talking about the balance of the 5 elements today, Xie Bulo wouldn't have said so much. However, Mu Yu knew that his master, who had no cultivation, was prey in the eyes of the third palace's guardian. His body could be seized by the guardian at any time. However, because of the immortal confining prison, Feng Haochen wasn't too worried about this matter. At least, before the immortal confining prison devoured him, the guardian of the third palace wouldn't be able to do anything to him. In short, the 9 heavens sealing devil formation is based on the principle of the balance of the 5 elements. It will be similar to the formation in the ethereal land. By treating your body as an ethereal land, Spirit Lord Yu Ming won't be able to control your body. His power won't affect your emotions, and he won't be able to control your consciousness. You will be able to control the 5 elements in the outside world. Feng Haochen brought them to a relatively spacious stone peak. Although Mu Yu and the others couldn't control the grass and trees in this place, they could control the 5 elements they brought with them from the outside world. By the same principle, by setting up the 9 heavens sealing devil formation in their bodies, Spirit Lord Yu Meng wouldn't be able to control their bodies. However, it wouldn't affect Mu Yu and the others' abilities. The balance of the 5 elements in the ethereal land won't be broken. Therefore, this formation is very troublesome. Xie Bulo kicked a stone away. After a while, the stone flew back and landed in its original position. Xie Bulo said bluntly, "The 9 heavens sealing devil formation isn't that easy to succeed. The spirit, Lord Yu Meng, in your bodies won't be willing to be trapped. He will definitely wake up and resist. At that time, it would depend on whether your willpower is strong enough. I'll say the ugly words first. If any one of you is controlled by Spirit Lord Yu Meng, I won't hesitate to kill him and send him back into the cycle of reincarnation." The Spirit Lord Yu Meng's power in Mu Yu and the others hadn't fully recovered. Moreover, even if he controlled Mu Yu and the others, they would wake up in the ethereal land. Their abilities would be greatly reduced. Therefore, Xie Bulo had the ability to do this. Unless it's absolutely necessary, I won't let him kill anyone. Don't worry. I've often taught you that you need to live up to your own hearts when doing things. As long as your hearts are calm, your actions are upright, and you are not bewitched by Spirit Lord Yu Meng, there won't be any problems. Feng Haochen's words were much nicer than Xie Bulo's. He had been teaching Mu Yu and the others the correct values, hoping that they would be able to distinguish themselves from Spirit, Lord Yu Meng, and become a normal human. Xiao Shui, you have to be careful, said Muyu. The four of them had been receiving Feng Haoqin's teachings and cultivated the Dust Fall Sutra. They knew how to achieve a tranquil state of mind, but Xiao Shui was different from them. Muyu didn't know if Xiao Shui could achieve the same state of mind as them. Xiao Shui nodded nervously. Controlling Spirit, Lord Yu Meng in her body was still a little difficult for her. However, she wasn't an ordinary person. The demon race's Azure Dragon Demon King was an extremely powerful existence. He had taught Xiao Shui some ways to deal with him. Xie Bulo picked up a rock, a piece of metal, a leaf, and a drop of water. He used his spiritual energy to envelop the pulsating magma. Then, a powerful repulsive force came from these five things, as if they couldn't wait to return to their original positions. Once something in the ethereal spirit land was destroyed, it would quickly recover and return to its original position. The powerful ethereal spirit array ensured the integrity of this place, and Siebulo was using his profound cultivation to temporarily resist the recovery power of this array. Setting up the Nine Heavens Devil Sealing Array required the help of the five elements here. You only know how to use me as a coolie. Siebulo needed to use his own cultivation to temporarily refine these five things. His entire body surged with a gray, evil aura. The evil aura rolled over, covering the sky and the earth, covering the five elements. However, at this moment, countless stone peaks suddenly lit up with tyrannical array patterns. The array patterns were like dancing golden fairies, rushing towards the five elements that were trapped by Siebulo. It was obvious that the ethereal spirit array wanted to take back the five elements that were taken away from them. Siebulo coldly snorted. His right hand flashed with a red light, and Lucie's entire finger turned red. The dark red, evil aura rushed towards the array patterns with a strange whistling sound. When the golden array patterns met the red, evil aura, they seemed to be suppressed. The array patterns were originally ancient inscriptions. After being contaminated by Lucie, the golden ancient inscriptions were immediately dyed red. A pair of evil eyes actually appeared on each of the ancient inscriptions. Siebulo's Lucie had the ability to demonize anything. His cultivation had already reached the level where he could demonize array patterns. It was truly terrifying. Muyu and the other four looked at each other. Regardless of whether it was Siebulo's evil aura or the ancient golden array patterns, the terrifying aura emitted by them was something that they couldn't compare to. In front of Siebulo, they felt like ants at the bottom of a mountain. They could only tremble in fear. Feng Haoqin and Ku Mu were already standing in midair. They were using their spiritual energy to carve the array patterns. Ku Mu's arm danced, and the purple light, extreme jade, appeared beside him. A majestic amount of spiritual energy rushed towards Ku Mu's body. Streams of white spiritual energy appeared on Ku Mu's fingertips. They were like thin lines that sprayed out. Those spiritual energy lines crisscrossed with each other in an orderly manner. When they connected together, they formed a regular shape. Feng Haoqin's right hand's index finger and middle finger were together. His fingertips were shining with a golden light. He kept carving ancient inscriptions in the air. Each and every mysterious inscription was formed by spiritual energy. After each inscription was formed, it rippled in the air with the wind and surrounded Feng Haoqin. Feng Haoqin's left hand guided those inscriptions, and they slowly merged with the array patterns that Ku Mu was carving. The three of them had a clear division of labor, but they worked together with great tacit understanding. The three of them were all experts in setting up arrays, so they wouldn't make any mistakes. The Ninth Heavens Demon Sealing Array was a formation that was deliberately targeted at the Yuman. When the war between the human race and the Yuman broke out, the human race relied on it to win. However, this formation wasn't something that everyone could set up. There weren't many people in the human race who were proficient in formations. Only the formation masters of the formation faction could be considered to have some understanding of the Tao of formations. This was a long process. Mu Yu and the others couldn't help at all. They could only watch from the side. At the same time, they also understood how complicated this formation was. Kumu took nearly 10 hours to carve the embryonic form of the ninth heaven's demon sealing array. He was only at the cultivation level of the Jindan period. Consuming such a large amount of spiritual energy was too much for him. If it weren't for the countless pills that Muyu had on him to replenish his spiritual energy, as well as the purple light extreme jade, Kumu probably wouldn't have been able to hold on. Feng Haochen didn't show any signs of depletion of spiritual energy. This was because he could borrow the power of the heaven and earth formation and transfer the spiritual energy of the heaven and earth formation to himself. After carving the embryonic form, he needed to continuously perfect the details. This took another 10 hours. Feng Haochen was also constantly carving the inscriptions. He was probably carving millions of inscriptions. The amount of work required was huge, and he couldn't afford to make any mistakes. The complexity of the ninth heaven's demon sealing array was beyond anyone's imagination. Siebulo was already surrounded by inscriptions. The ethereal formation was becoming more and more oppressive to him. He wanted to take back the 5 elements that had been taken away from him. Many of the inscriptions had been demonized by his 6 evils. However, the demonized inscriptions would soon break free and merge back into the ethereal formation. Then, more inscriptions would appear one after another. Muyu, come here. Help me perfect the inscriptions. Kumu looked at Siebulo's progress. He knew that Siebulo was almost done, but he was still far from forming the formation. If he couldn't form the formation, then Feng Haochen's inscriptions wouldn't be able to be completely placed into the formation. The two of them had to finish setting up the formation before Siebulo. If Siebulo finished setting up the formation before they finished, then everything would be for naught. Muyu quickly came to Kumu's side. Looking at the ninth heaven's demon sealing array, which had a diameter of about 500 meters, he was extremely shocked. Although he had learned a lot about formations from Kumu, after seeing the ninth heaven's demon sealing array, he realized that the formations he had set up before were just child's play. You taught Muyu the formation? Feng Haochen frowned, but his hands didn't stop. Kumu glanced at him and said, "Wouldn't it be ridiculous if my disciple didn't learn the formation? Both of my masters are formation experts, but my disciple doesn't know the formation. I don't want him to go out and embarrass me." Feng Haochen shook his head helplessly. You know that I didn't teach them the formation because Spirit Lord Yumeng would occasionally pry into their memories when he resuscitation. That way, after Spirit Lord Yumeng learned our formation knowledge and figured out the weakness of the ninth heaven's demon sealing array, it would be useless against them. Kumu snorted. I believe in my disciple. Muyu felt warm in his heart. Kumu had always been straightforward. Although he often scolded Muyu and the back of Muyu's head had been slapped thousands of times by Kumu, Muyu never cared about those insignificant things. This was because Kumu had long since treated Muyu as his own child. Feng Haochen sighed. This isn't a matter of whether you believe in him or not. This is to protect their safety. Moreover, our attainments in array formations are among the best in the cultivation world. If Spirit Lord Yumeng obtains them all, in the future, when we fight against the Yumeng Devil Clan, basically all the arrays used to restrain them will be ineffective. Muyu didn't blame Feng Haochen, because Feng Haochen's worries were also correct. If he had learned all of his master's formation knowledge, including the ninth heaven's demon sealing array, based on the fact that he had lost control a few times now, Spirit Lord Yumeng would definitely have understood the weakness of the ninth heaven's demon sealing array. In that case, Muyu would also be in danger. Kumu pursed his lips. He found that Feng Haochen was right every time, so he reluctantly said, "Fortunately, you're a little lazy and didn't seriously learn the formation. You don't need to understand the principles of this formation. Just follow my instructions." Muyu didn't have any temper at all. Now it seemed that learning the formation was a mistake. However, it was fortunate that he had only learned a little about the formation. It might be effective in dealing with some simple maze and illusion formations, but for a complex formation like the ninth heaven's demon sealing array, without anyone to guide him, It was unrealistic for him to rely on himself to understand it. The others hadn't learned the formation before, so they couldn't help. Muyu listened to Ku Mu's instructions and helped him perfect the lines. He tried his best not to think about how the lines he drew with his spiritual power would affect the ninth heaven's demon sealing array. He also didn't try to figure out the use of every line he saw. He tried his best to forget the knowledge of the formation and just be a quick assistant. With Muyu's help, the progress of the ninth heaven's demon sealing array suddenly sped up. The speed at which Feng Haochen injected inscriptions into the formation also began to increase. After more than a day, the ninth heaven's demon sealing array finally took shape. As Ku Mu drew the last line, Feng Haochen injected the last inscription into the formation. The ninth heaven's demon sealing array suddenly trembled and emitted a dazzling white light that shot into the sky. An ancient aura spread out from the ninth heaven's demon sealing array. This aura seemed to come from ancient times and made people's hearts palpitate. Mu Yu and the others suddenly felt uneasy. Chapter 331. The 5 elements that Xie Bulo had extracted were slowly refined by the evil energy. The evil energy invaded the runes, causing the ethereal formation to mistakenly believe that the 5 elements had returned to their original positions. The golden runes no longer rushed out of the ethereal land to forcibly seize the 5 elements. The foundation of the 9 heavens sealing demon formation was the 5 elements. The 5 elements were closely related to the entire ethereal land. Because the 5 elements were forcibly taken away, the ethereal land had always wanted to take them back. Therefore, a huge amount of energy would surge out to tear the 5 elements apart. This energy was cleverly used by the 3 formation grandmasters as the foundation of a 9 heavens sealing demon formation, providing a strong foundation of spiritual energy for the formation. Xie Bulo waved his hand, and the 5 elements slowly entered the white 9 heavens sealing demon formation. When Ku Mu was carving the runes, he had already left a place for the 5 elements. After the 5 elements combined with the 9 heavens sealing demon formation, the entire formation trembled once again. All the lines of spiritual energy started to move rapidly, and the entire formation was covered by the 5 colors of gold, green, blue, red, and yellow. Muyu's heart skipped a beat. He vaguely felt that something was struggling in his body. An indescribable feeling of resentment rose from the bottom of his heart. He wanted to quickly escape from this ethereal land. It was as if the 9 heavens sealing demon formation was some kind of terrifying forbidden area. It made him feel very uncomfortable. However, Xie Bulo waved his hand, and before they could do anything, the 5 of them had already been sent into the 9 heavens sealing demon formation. Guard your consciousness. Don't be bewitched. Feng Haochen's voice was like a loud bell ringing in their ears, waking them up from their anger. Feng Haochen sat cross-legged in midair. He shouted at Xie Bulo and Ku Mu, "You two protect me. When Spirit Lord Yu Meng wakes up, I need to do my best to maintain this formation. No matter what happens, don't be too anxious. Especially you, Xie Bulo." Feng Haochen gave Xie Bulo a warning look. Then, he closed his eyes and fell into silence. His entire body was covered by a white rune, isolating him from the outside world. However, his hands didn't stop. Countless runes continued to appear and merge into the 9 heavens sealing demon formation. Feng Haochen was the eye of the entire 9 heavens sealing devil array. He needed to focus on sealing off his senses to support the entire 9 heavens sealing devil array. This array formation was closely related to him. In order to prevent interference from the 5 people in the array formation, he even cut off his own detection of the 5 people in the array formation within the 9 heavens sealing demon formation. Muyu discovered that his entire body was enveloped by a green light. Above his head was an insignificant leaf, but it was this leaf that contained boundless power. It was as if a colorful world was hidden within this leaf. It was full of vitality, thriving, and surging like a surging tide. Something in his heart was roaring. It was as if it wanted to break free of its cage. But the presence of the leaf was so frightening that the thing in his heart didn't dare fight it. If it wasn't for me back then, would you have been able to survive? A cold face appeared in Muyu's mind. It was exactly the same as Muyu, but the presence was completely different. Spirit Lord Mu Yameng had turned into Muyu's appearance. Master said that I shouldn't have been able to survive. I'm just a vessel for you. But now I want to get rid of the identity of a vessel. Muyu said calmly. In his heart, he was already silently operating the Dust Fall Heart Sutra. Don't you want the ability to control life and death? If you seal me, you will never be able to use it again. In the blink of an eye, you will regret it. Spirit Lord Mu Yameng stared at him. I don't need the ability to control life and death in the blink of an eye. I don't need to control the life and death of others. Everyone has their own destiny. You humans are all hypocrites. You always say things that don't mean. If you seal me, Jian Ying and Chun Feng's undying body will one day be taken away by the guardian of the Third Palace. You can only fight against the people of the Third Palace by borrowing my power. Spirit Lord Mu Yuming's eyes flashed with a crazy green light. I have already found the Netherworld grass. The Netherworld grass will help him recover his cultivation. Netherworld grass? Huh, you are too naive. Do you think that the guardian of the Third Palace did not consider the matter of the Netherworld grass? The method you came up with only needs a year. In this year, many things can happen. I have fought with the people of the Third Palace for thousands of years. Every guardian of the Third Palace is selfish. But that does not mean that they are simple-minded. They will always pay attention to their own interests. Do you think that the Third Palace will not notice Jian Ying Chun Feng's actions? Spirit Lord Mu Yameng mocked. Muyu's heart trembled. He knew that Spirit Lord Mu Yameng was right. The Third Palace knew everything about the Third Palace like the back of their hand. The Guardians were also concerned about Feng Haochen's undying body. They would definitely not let Feng Haochen recover his cultivation so easily. Master naturally has his ways. You don't need to worry. You are human. I am a human. I will definitely fight against you to the end. Muyu scattered all his thoughts. Spirit Lord Mu Yameng laughed wildly. What is the human race that you want to protect? Is the human race worthy of your protection? Many images suddenly appeared in Muyu's mind. These were all his unpleasant memories. They were also the evil side of human nature. He saw the two disciples of the Jihua school killing the pregnant flame horse for the sake of a demon spirit. Then, they killed the Marshall brothers that he spent all his time with for the sake of a demon spirit. He saw the gray disciples of the Jihua school being beaten and scolded by cultivators. He saw the cultivators that were killed by Deacon Sun. He saw how Deacon Sun stood up for the gray disciples, but was betrayed by the gray disciples and almost lost his life. He saw how Gue Xianyue killed 49 Jinan period cultivators in order to find Jian Yingchen Feng. He also saw how Gue Xuanyue's physical body was destroyed and his twin was killed. In order to not be punished by the Ghost Lord, he resolutely waved his butcher's knife at his biological father and forcibly turned his father into a twin. He saw the ugly faces of the cultivators of the floating immortal island fighting for the dragon vine. They did not hesitate to fight for the dragon vine. Many nascent soul cultivators besieged him in the Jinan period. They did not treat his life as a human being at all. He saw how Shi Mingwei and Shi Dengtian schemed to kill him. They even did not hesitate to tamper with the teleportation jade pendant. They wanted to trap Muyu in the second heaven forever. After Muyu escaped, they sent Su Zai to kill Deadwood. He saw how every cultivator of the human race only dared to bully those who were weaker than them. They were arrogant in front of the weak and humble in front of the strong. He saw how the evil sects indulged their bodies in the hell on earth, and how these bodies were usually very high and mighty elders. He saw how mortal emperors poisoned their own father and brothers to death in the fight for the throne. He saw how human brothers and sisters drove their elderly parents out of the house after fighting for the family property and made them sleep on the streets. No one was willing to take care of their parents when they grew old. He saw how vicious wives forced their mother-in-law to eat leftovers and sleep in a pig cage. He saw how greedy shopkeepers took away the wages of hardworking workers for no reason. He saw how landlords forcibly took over the land and demolished the houses of farmers. Countless ugly faces flashed through Mu Yu's mind. Some of them were his own experiences, but most of them were the conflicts between the human race that Spirit Lord Mu Yameng had seen himself. These bloody scenes depicted the ugly face of human nature. It was so shocking that Mu Yu deeply experienced the dark side of the world. Are these the human race that you want to protect? Is there a need for them to exist? Do they deserve to live? Bitter ridicule echoed in Mu Yu's mind for a long time. Spirit Lord Mu Yameng had fought with the human race for so long that he was familiar with the dark side of human nature. He knew that Mu Yu advocated peace and did not like killing. Therefore, he transmitted all the memories of the human race killing each other to Mu Yu's mind. There are always many unfairness in the world. However, the human race does not exist because of these unfairness. It is because we have feelings. The thousands of bloody scenes did not waver Mu Yu. His belief was very firm. He understood what he had and also understood what the human race had. Grandpa Village Chief knew that he had Yu Meng's ability, but chose to believe him. Deacon Sun protected Mu Yu, who was a gray disciple, in front of the high and mighty immortal master. Feng Haochen taught him calmly. Cheng Yen protected his junior brother. Lan Ling was stubborn towards Luo Shang. Tian Ran chose not to acknowledge her father in front of him so that she would not cause trouble for him. Pu Jian was willing to give up his life for the woman he loved and was willing to give up his heart for Yu Dai. Kumu was willing to save Feng Haochen for Miao Yuyan. Lung Bingxue had waited bitterly for Kumu for several decades. Feng Haochen was unwilling to see the person he loved grow old and would rather give up his immortal life. The scenes of love were like warm suns that melted the ugly human nature. Family, friendship, the care of an elder brother, the protection of an elder, the persistence of love. These were all things that Spirit Lord Mu Yameng could not understand. They had fought with the human race for thousands of years, but in the end, they still did not understand what the human race relied on to continue their race. Boom! The 9 heavens demon sealing array suddenly erupted with an ancient aura. The 5 elements that Sieb Bulo had refined intertwined with each other, forming rings of 5-colored inscriptions that pulsed and fused into each person's body. The 5 elements depended on each other and restrained each other, turning their bodies into balanced elemental bodies. Spirit Lord Mu Yameng let out an unwilling roar. The 5 people's bodies were constantly fused with by the array patterns. Each of their bodies lacked 4 elements, and these 4 elements were slowly being replenished by the 9 heavens demon sealing array. Although it was impossible for them to become like normal people, it was enough to make Spirit Lord Mu Yameng unable to control them. However, at this moment, a mournful cry rang out. Xiao Shue's body trembled uncontrollably. She cried out in pain, "No, I'm not a monster. Don't kill me." Tears had already flowed down her cheeks. She saw her past. The human race had abandoned her, and even her own parents did not like her. She was disheartened. That was her most helpless moment, but Spirit Lord Shui Yumeng had evoked her sorrow. Xiao Shue's sobbing alarmed the others. Her emotions seemed to be magnified by the 9 heavens demon sealing array. Everyone could feel her sorrow. Mu Yu intuitively felt an indescribable sorrow in his heart. He felt as if he had lost something, and his heart was empty. Mu Yu knew what he had lost. He had been an orphan since he was young, and he did not understand what his parents' love was. When he was 2 years old, his mother chose to leave without saying goodbye, leaving him to the village chief. He envied other children who could act spoiled in their parents' embrace, but he could not. Although the village chief loved him very much, there were many things that the village chief could not give him. He would often sit at his door in a daze, hoping that his mother would come back to pick him up. He did not even want to live in the village chief's house. However, day after day, year after year, no one came to pick him up. He was an orphan who had been abandoned by his parents. He buried these feelings in the bottom of his heart because he was very optimistic. However, today, these feelings erupted like a volcano. They all surged into his heart, making him feel incomparably sad. Why would there be parents who abandoned their children? Muyu thought in a daze. He did not seem to have any attachment to life. He felt very sleepy and wanted nothing more than to sleep and forget all the sorrow. You will never understand this girl's pitiful past. I've taken over her consciousness so many times that it's hard to believe. Chapter 332. Jining, Chun Feng, Xiaing, ageless. Long time no see. Xiao Shui stood up from the array. Her bright blue eyes looked at Siep Bulo and Feng Haochen, who were outside the Nine Heavens Demon Ceiling array. Siep Bulo and Ku Mu's expressions changed. Something unexpected had happened. Yes, we haven't seen each other for more than 100 years, right? I heard that Jianing and Chun Feng's undying body is coveted by that guy from the third palace. Why don't you humans believe in yourselves? Xiangnan suddenly opened his eyes. His eyes were filled with yellow light. They were heavy and thick, looking very strange. Xiao Shui's loss of control made the others feel the same way. Xiangnan was the first to be affected. Both of their consciousnesses had been taken over by Spirit Lord Yumeng. It's a pity that Jianing and Chen Feng seem to be on guard against me. They cut off the detection of these 5 people. My ability doesn't seem to work on him. Otherwise, I might be able to affect his state of mind. Xianming looked regretfully at Feng Haochen, who was covered by array patterns. Xianming and Hutu, you two are in a hurry to die. Sieb Bulo's 6 evils were filled with evil energy. The 5 spirit lords Yumeng had their own names. They were with God Gomong, Fire God Zhurong, Earth God Hutu, Metal God Rushu, and Water God Xianming. Humans usually called them Spirit Lords Yumeng. Apart from Feng Haochen and Sieb Bulo, who knew more about Yumon, no one else knew their exact names. Sieb Bulo's body was filled with evil energy and killing intent. However, Xianming just smiled disdainfully, as if he didn't see anything. None of us can be killed. Why do you have to threaten us? However, Xiao Shui and Xiang Nan can die. At worst, we'll go through another reincarnation. However, apart from Jianing and Chen Feng, I don't think you can force us to reincarnate into humans. Xianming's voice was pleasant, as if he were singing. Sieb Bulo, Feng Haochen told us not to be rash. Kumu stopped Sieb Bulo, who was about to attack. He frowned. Although Xiang Nan and Xiao Shui's consciousnesses had been taken away, it didn't mean that there was no way to save them. The Nine Heavens Devil Ceiling formation was still incomplete, and Feng Haochen was still maintaining the operation of the formation. Everything depended on the 5 people in the formation. Sword Shadow and Chun Feng have made a good plan. They forcibly sent us into the human reincarnation. Now we can only curl up in this small, dirty human body. Disgusting. Hutu walked to Luo Shang, put her hand on Luo Shang's shoulder, and said, Zhurong, why don't you wake up? Luo Shang's face turned red, but he didn't open his eyes. He was still struggling to hold on, fighting against the fire god Zhurong in his body. I have to say, Jianing and Chun Feng have taught their disciples quite well. It's a pity that we didn't find Xiao Shui. Otherwise, we might not have had the chance to come out today. It wasn't easy for Huda to come out. If Xiao Shui hadn't lost control and infected Xiangnan with her sadness, Xiangnan wouldn't have lost his consciousness to Hutu. So what if you 5 annoying fellows came out? Do you think you can run away from the empty land? Siep Bulo snorted. Xianming stretched her body, looked at the others, then fixed her eyes on Feng Haochen, who was trying his best to keep the formation isolated from the outside world, and said, Sword Shadow and Chun Feng are so lucky for the humankind. Unfortunately, there are always some short-sighted human beings among you who tried everything to steal his immortal body. The humankind has already given up on Jianing and Chen Feng. Siebulo, why don't you choose to join us? If we join hands, it will be easy for us to bring down the threefold palace. Siebulo said with a fierce look. Jianing and Chen Feng will take care of the threefold palace people. You don't need to worry about us. I was careless. I forgot that you can infect people with your emotions. The scariest thing about Xian Ming, who was known as the affectionate being, wasn't that she could control water and ice. Instead, she could magnify all kinds of emotions in the hearts of human beings and destroy the humankind from the inside out. She could keenly sense the sadness and happiness in people's hearts. As long as she wanted to, she could even bring up the deepest memories in people's hearts, making them unable to extricate themselves. Xian Ming's ability was called Death of Love. It was famous for playing with human emotions. Humans had many complicated emotions, such as happiness, anger, sorrow, and joy. Once emotions were magnified, a person's mind would be occupied by all kinds of emotions, which would endlessly impact the person's spiritual world. In the end, it would cause the person to collapse. Looking at your smile, it seems like you still believe that they can resist my death of love. Xian Ming walked to Qingyin's side and stretched out her slender fingers to gently stroke Qingyin's face. Qingyin's entire body became somewhat painful. I like to evoke memories in people. This Qingyin seems to like a girl called Qing Mei a lot. Back then, in order to protect his master, he resolutely broke up with Qing Mei. He didn't reveal his great sadness. What a strong-willed guy. However, I like to evoke such heart-wrenching memories in him. When Xian Ming's fingertips brushed across Qingyin's face, she could clearly see the emotions in Qingyin's heart. Doesn't Russia hate talking about emotions the most? Why did he choose an affectionate human brat as his body? Huta sized up Qingyin in confusion. Jining and Chunfeng are both our love-saint old prince. How can his disciple not be? Xie unhappily glared at Feng Haochen, whose eyes were tightly shut. Unfortunately, Feng Haochen didn't hear what he was saying. Xie didn't like emotions. He believed that too much emotions would become a burden and would be restricted. This wasn't in line with the carefree style of the heretics. And this Muyu, he casually took liberties with Qiao Shui and stole her heart. He's so stupid. His EQ is really low. Xian Ming walked to Mu Yu's side and sneered. Although she revealed a disdainful smile, her voice was still like the sound of nature. It was really strange how she did it. Why aren't you two scramming back? Xie shouted. Xian Ming lazily looked at Xie. Xie, why don't you just kill this girl and let me enter the cycle of reincarnation? Then I'll reincarnate into the body of my Shui Yu Meng clansman. In the future, we'll fight again. This will save us a lot of trouble, right? Don't worry. If you kill me this time, I won't fight back. Huta smiled honestly and then frowned. The little bastard in my body is struggling. Get down. You just have to mourn for your dead mother. Feng Haochen understood his disciples very well. He knew that Mu Yu and the others wouldn't be easily controlled by Spirit Lord Yumeng. However, Qiao Shui's situation had changed. Qiao Shui had been abandoned by the human race when she was young. Her family had driven her away. Her heart was very weak. After Xian Ming took over her consciousness, Qiao Shui's emotions were magnified and affected Xiangnan, who had experienced the pain of losing his life. However, Qingyan, Luo Shang, and Mu Yu's minds were still relatively strong. They were still fighting against Spirit Lord Yumeng. The Nine Heavens Demon Sealing Formation had gradually entered the bodies of Qingyan and the others. As long as they were given more time, they would be able to endure it. If Xie rashly attacked Xian Ming now, he would break the formation and cause irreparable damage to the others. The only thing they could do now was wait. Wait until the Nine Heavens Demon Sealing Formation was completely engraved into their bodies. If they could seal Spirit Lord Yumeng, that would count as one. As for the rest that they couldn't seal, they could only prepare for the worst. Swoosh! The left side of Luo Shang's body suddenly burst into flames. His hair instantly turned a dazzling red. He opened his eyes, which were flickering. His left eye was flickering with raging flames, while his right eye was still showing Luo Shang's cold expression. This little bastard won't let me out. Zhurong had seized half of Luo Shang's body. His voice carried a whistling sound. He seemed flustered and exasperated. You shouldn't have come out. Luo Shang's right eye was very cold. The right side of his body was trying hard to suppress Zhurong. However, fire god Zhurong was extraordinary. Luo Shang couldn't completely suppress Zhurong. Xianming walked over and smiled. Brother Zhurong, do you need me to help you? Specks of blue light appeared from Xianming's body and gently covered the right side of Luo Shang's body. A trace of panic and guilt appeared in Luo Shang's cold right eye. Then, Zhurong's flames instantly covered the right side of Luo Shang's body and successfully seized it. I hate the smell of guilt. This kid makes me feel uncomfortable, Zhurong said with a hoarse voice. Luo Shang was a very energetic and cold guy. He was the first to leave the Moyun mountain range. After coming to the third continent, he seemed to be very low-key. The young talents of the floating immortal island didn't know him, but the people of the million-star firm invited him. No one knew what he had experienced. I don't like these inscriptions. Rushu stared at the faintly discernible golden inscriptions on his arm. Although they had taken control of their bodies, the Nine Heavens Fiend sealing array was still being maintained by Feng Haochen. There was no way for them to walk out of the array formation. Even their strength was sealed. Resuscitation was the same for Spirit Lord Yumeng. Ignoring the fact that their strength was greatly reduced, even if they were at their peak, they wouldn't be able to use their full strength in this ethereal land. They were all waiting for the Nine Heavens Fiend sealing array. As long as they still took control of their bodies after the array ended, the Nine Heavens Fiend sealing array would lose its effect. Strange, what is Gomong doing? I remember that Gomong has been resuscitated more than me. He should be recovering faster. Why hasn't he finished off this kid? Hutis circled Mu Yu's body in puzzlement. Every resuscitation would allow them to recover a large portion of their vitality and gradually adapt to the body they were residing in. If he woke up frequently, it would be easy for him to seize control of the body, causing the owner of the body to never wake up again. Xiao Shui and Mu Yu had received the most resuscitation from Spirit Lord Yumeng, so they were in more danger than the others. He will wake up. There is no rush. Xianming deliberately looked at Ku Mu and Xie Bulo provocatively. Although Xianming couldn't resonate with the surrounding water elements, her goal wasn't to escape. She was deliberately angering them and forcing them to take action to interfere with the Nine Heavens Fiend sealing array's smooth progress. Xie Bulo wasn't a gentle person. He angrily shouted and wanted to kill Xianming, but Ku Mu kept stopping him. Wait. Feng Haochen is still maintaining the Nine Heavens Fiend sealing array. Don't cause trouble. Ku Mu shouted. As long as one of them could succeed, it would be great. Even if they couldn't, Ku Mu would never let Xie Bulo kill Mu Yu. Feng Haochen's original intention of taking Mu Yu and the other three as his disciples was never to kill them. Instead, he wanted to rely on the four of them to suppress Spirit Lord Yumeng and prevent him from continuing to wreak havoc in the human world. However, Xie Bulo didn't care so much. He had always been very straightforward. Xianming went to Qingyin's side again and poured the blue light into Qingyin's body. Qingyin's body trembled violently. An indescribable sadness appeared on his face, as if he was recalling some painful memories. Then he opened his eyes. However, his eyes flickered with a cold metallic luster, without any human emotions. Chapter 333. The four spirit lords Yumeng stared at Xie Bulo and Ku Mu Chongqing with interest. Their expressions were full of ridicule. They appeared with the appearance of Qingyan and the others, but their auras had undergone earth-shattering changes. They were no longer the same four people. Ku Mu Chongqing, are you sure we want to continue waiting? I already told Jianing Chen that the ninth heaven sealing devil formation wouldn't succeed so easily. If his mind wasn't firm, how could he suppress those 5 bastards? When he sent those 5 bastards into the human race's reincarnation, I was very opposed. After living for so many years, does he still not understand human nature? Xie Bulo said impatiently. Mu Yu is different from them. Moreover, Feng Haochen never fights an unprepared battle. Even if he fails, he will have other ways to remedy it. Kumu glanced at the anxious Siebulo and snorted. His gaze fell on Muyu, who was still sitting cross-legged on the ground. Muyu was the only one who hadn't lost control of his body. As long as Muyu persevered, there was still room to turn things around. Muyu, will she really be different from them? Do you trust him that much? Hee. Xianming heard Kumu's words and laughed loudly. She leisurely strolled to Muyu's side. Xianming's blue brilliance had already covered Muyu's entire body. Muyu's body was trembling. His face was filled with fear, anger, and sorrow. However, he still gritted his teeth and persevered. No one knew what was going on in his body. This kid has the most emotions. He won't be able to persevere for long. Xianming chuckled. She could clearly sense the chaotic emotions in Muyu's mind. It was only a matter of time before they were suppressed by Gomong. Muyu, don't let your imagination run wild. Do you hear me? Kumu anxiously shouted at Muyu. He's not imagining things. He just longs for the love of his parents. TSK. Your mother abandoned you when you were only 2 years old. It's really a pitiful thing. Xianming extended her slender finger and stroked Muyu's cheek. Do you crave the love of a father and a mother? What a joke. Your father and mother don't want you. Why do you wait for them? Your mother won't come back. Just be an orphan and be sad forever. The dark blue eyes actually reflected the memory fragments in Muyu's mind. She could clearly see Muyu's memories at this moment. After that, her voice echoed in Muyu's mind, causing Muyu, who was in the midst of her memories, to be filled with confusion. Am I really an unwanted child? Muyu had already forgotten what his mother looked like. Ever since he was 2 years old, his mother had left while he was sleeping soundly. He could only vaguely remember her back view, the back view that made him panic. At this moment, Muyu was sitting in front of the threshold of his hut in Flowing Water Village, staring at the entrance of the village in a daze. He didn't know what he was looking at, but he hoped that the back he wanted to see would appear there. However, a child walked in front of Muyu. You are an annoying fellow. Even your parents don't want you. Who else would want you? Muyu's childhood playmate, De Zhuang, appeared in front of him. De Zhuang's eyes flashed with an imperceptible blue light. This blue light disappeared in a flash. Muyu didn't notice anything unusual. Grandpa Village Chief wants me, Muyu weakly explained. He felt very disappointed. He didn't know why, but he used to cover up all his memories of his mother and deliberately try to forget these things. However, today these things poured into his mind and made him very sad. Come on. The village chief only took you in because he felt sorry for you. Do you think the village chief will like someone who doesn't even want his parents? De Zhuang unscrupulously mocked him. His voice was sharp and ear-piercing, making Muyu's mood even worse. Muyu was very sad. He didn't even know why he was sad. He inexplicably believed De Zhuang's words. He believed that he was a child that no one wanted, that no one loved, that no one cared about. You like Lanling, but Lanling doesn't like you. You like Tian Ran, but you don't have the ability to protect her. Xiao Shui likes you, but you rejected her. You are a useless coward. It's a mistake for you to live until now, isn't it? De Zhuang laughed. The blue light in his eyes was still flashing, but the disdain in his voice didn't lessen. But Master wants me to... Muyu wanted to grasp at the last straw. Feng Haochen only accepted you as a disciple because of Spirit Lord Yu Meng in your body. If you were nothing, would he have chosen to teach you? Kumu is only using you. His ultimate goal is Miao Yuyin, not you. De Zhuang's laughter was so arrogant that it made Muyu tremble. He's right. You are indeed a child that no one wants. Gomong's figure appeared in Muyu's body. Gomong and Muyu looked exactly the same, but his eyes were a ball of green mist that constantly rotated. Muyu lowered his head. He realized that De Zhuang was right. Feng Haochen only accepted him as a disciple because of Spirit Lord Yu Meng in his body. If he wasn't Spirit Lord Yu Meng's vessel, then he was nothing. Feng Haochen wouldn't even look at him, nor would he teach him any sword techniques. Kumu only chose to teach Muyu his Tao of medicine from Miao Yuyin. He had been using Muyu from the beginning. Kumu had a grudge against Feng Haochen, so how could he trust his enemy's disciple? Endless sorrow enveloped Muyu. He had already forgotten where he was. He only felt terrible and wanted to cry, outside the nine heavens sealing formation. You can't even hold on to the last one? Then I won't hold back. Ciabulo stroked his 6 evils. Xianming's ability was to infinitely magnify a person's emotions. Even if you felt guilty because you accidentally knocked over a bowl, she could magnify this guilt and torment your heart, causing you to choose to end your life because of this guilt. Everyone has something in their heart that is worth protecting. Muyu will definitely hold on. Kumu thought of Muyu's past and clenched his fists. Muyu had never been loved by his parents since he was young. He had always yearned for this kind of emotion. Although he had always been optimistic and buried this emotion deep in his heart, once this emotion was triggered by Xianming, it was easy for him to lose himself. Ciabulo said fiercely, "I don't care what other people have in their hearts. Once this kid is controlled, I will personally end the lives of these 5 people. You can't stop me. Even Jianing and Chun Feng can't stop me." Kumu angrily stared at Ciabulo. Ciabulo had always harbored a deep killing intent towards Muyu's group. He wasn't like Kumu and Feng Haochen, who chose to believe in Muyu's group. Instead, he treated Muyu's group as an anomaly. Although Ciabulo's style of doing things was very strange, when it came to Yumon's matters, his goal was very clear. He wouldn't give Yumon any chances. Kumu looked at Feng Haochen, who was maintaining the 9 heavens sealing formation. Although Feng Haochen had warned Ciabulo not to act blindly without thinking, with Ciabulo's personality, how could he listen to Feng Haochen's words? Muyu's body suddenly shook. He shouted loudly, and his entire body was wrapped in a green light. Then he opened his eyes as well. His eyes were filled with a strange green mist that spun faintly. It was like a breathtaking cloud, but also like a whirlpool of nebula. Then the green fog slowly drifted away, and his eyes were covered with 2 different colors. His left eye was filled with white light, and his right eye was covered with black light. "Gomon, you are a bit slow," Xianming said with a smile. "Fortunately, I'm not too late." Gomon faintly smiled. He stood up and looked at the 3 people outside the 9 heavens sealing formation. He said, "Ciabulo, you have been waiting for me to be the last one, right? How about it? Have you made up your mind to end the lives of these 5 people?" Muyu's control over his body had actually been seized by Gomon. The 5-spirit Lord Yumeng were completely resuscitation. The killing intent on Ciabulo's body was getting stronger and stronger. He coldly stared at Feng Haochen and then looked at Kumu. Now that their consciousness has been seized by Spirit Lord Yumeng, the 9 heavens sealing formation is about to end. Once it ends, the 9 heavens sealing formation will seal the consciousness of these 5 people. They will not be able to wake up. Do you still want to stop me? Ciabulo raised his right hand. Evil energy filled the sky, and he was ready to kill these 5 people. There is still a chance that they will wake up. If you want to make a move, you should do it after the 9 heavens sealing formation ends. Kumu stood in front of Ciabulo. "What? Your most trusted Muyu's consciousness has already been seized. You still don't want to give up?" Ciabulo pushed Kumu away. 6 evil energy burst out and blasted toward the 5 people inside the 9 heavens sealing formation. However, Kumu rushed toward the 9 heavens sealing formation. He didn't care about the others, but Muyu's life was the most important to him. In the past, he had always thought that Muyu was only a tool to be used. However, as time passed, he realized that he had already treated Muyu as his own child. From the moment Muyu appeared in the Pill Cauldron sect, Kumu knew what Muyu meant to him. He would not allow Ciabulo to kill Muyu. "Are you crazy?" Ciabulo angrily shouted. A violent, evil energy swept toward Kumu. He wanted to grab Kumu back. However, Kumu's fingers flickered and countless formation patterns appeared from his hand. The purple light, Extreme Jade, released a powerful spiritual energy and blocked Ciabulo's evil energy. "Bastard, you actually dare to use formation techniques to fight against me?" Ciabulo was extremely angry. His cultivation had already reached the peak. Even the 8 sect masters were not his match. However, Kumu was also a formation master like him. Their attainments in formation techniques had already reached the peak. Although Kumu had lost his cultivation, he was still able to use the purple light extreme jade to activate a powerful formation technique to fight against Ciebulo. The purple light extreme jade is indeed a good item. However, I want to see if you can block it a second time. Ciebulo's evil energy attacked again. However, Kumu had already fallen into the 9th heaven's demon sealing array. His palm struck the array patterns on the ground of the 9th heaven's demon sealing array. Countless array patterns burst forth, forming a powerful spiritual energy. It met Ciebulo's evil energy and shattered it once again. How is this possible? The core of the 9 heaven sealing formation is Jian Ing Chun Foam. How are you able to control this formation? Ciebulo turned his head and looked at Feng Haochen. Feng Haochen did not make any extra movements. The inscriptions in his hand continued to flow. However, the spiritual energy just now was not released by Feng Haochen. Ciebulo, the 9 heavens sealing formation spirit patterns were drawn by me. I already knew that you would not be content with your lot, so I left you a way out. The formation's foundation is this empty spirit land. Do you really think that you can fight against the entire empty spirit land? Kumu coldly said. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.